Good evening and welcome to the first Corporate Parenting Committee meeting of this municipal year. It is now 7 p.m. and I would like to start this meeting. I am Councillor Elizabeth Rigby and as Vice Chair of this committee I will be chairing the meeting in Councillor Horrell's absence. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for publication on the Council's website. Officers attending virtually on Microsoft Teams, please use the raise your hand option when you wish to speak, and Emma will note this down and will let me know. Agenda item 1. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Emma, have any apologies been received?
Yes, so Councillor Hurrell has sent apologies and Councillor Hurrell has sent his apologies. Councillor Watson is here as a substitute, and Councillor Heath has sent her apologies, and Councillor Cecil is here as her substitute.
Okay, thank you. And item 2 on the agenda is the minutes. So I move that the minutes of the Corporate Parenting Committee meeting held on the 19th of March 2024 be approved as a correct record. Are there any comments on the accuracy of the minutes?
No.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is items of urgent business. I've not agreed to any items of urgent business. Item 4 is declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to make?
No.
Okay. Item 5 is the Thurrock Young Voices presentation. May I ask the Thurrock Young Voices to please present their presentation to the committee.
Hi, good evening. So we come from that Thurrock Young Voices. I want to start by obviously saying what we are, who we do. Obviously, recently we've separated into 2 groups. So now we have the Care Leaver Forum, so it's between like 16 to 25-year-olds. And then we have the younger little ones, which is 11 to 16. This allows us to focus more in those particular young people. So when we come, for example, to these type of committees, we get to speak on behalf of the children in care, but also the young people who've left care and the support they need. We have like progress on our 2024 goals. Last time we came here, we spoke a little bit about our power participation workshop. We'll get in a minute into that. More activities with workers involved. We had 2 big events for young people per year, like Young Voices Grange Waters, which I'll get there in a minute, and Young Voices member packs, including T-shirts and hoodies to be created, and create Young Inspectors program. So over to you, Jasmine.
We held our first power participation on the 17th of May, and it was a success, a great success. We got fantastic feedback from all the workers that were able to join, and it was just to help raise awareness about what us children in care or aftercare adults, children have experienced, and just help them understand from our perspective what we see from them, and hope that we can help them, in harsh words, do their job better. That sounds a bit harsh, but you can't really put it in any other way. But yeah, we also had 28 workers joined that one, which grave success. And we had another one only recently, a couple of days ago on the 29th, and not as many workers showed up, but we still got fantastic feedback. They really enjoyed it. They see what where we're coming from, and I don't know, I guess there's some sort of appreciation as well. And yeah.
If you got the members back.
Oh, sorry. The members pack that we have when you join Young Voices, it includes a notepad and pen to note down anything that we say in the meetings, a T-shirt, also a hoodie, a lanyard, and there's also a wellbeing book, just as activities for them to do in their spare time, and if they're going through something, it helps them in any way possible.
And you can also probably see a few pictures of some of our young people's bags. Well, say young people's, myself and Jasmine's pack. To the next thing was the Children Care Awards. I remember last time we were here, we were talking about the idea of the Children Care Awards being more inclusive. And being around like other cultures, we want to advertise that more within our events with children in care. But it wasn't a success, I'd say. Everyone loved it. We had so much fun. But the whole thing was carnival, which is celebrating everyone, just a happy day to celebrate our young people and their achievements. We had so many young people like confidently also performing, which was so amazing to see that as well, that we have so many talented people in our council. I'd also like to talk about the protected characteristics, which recently got passed as a motion, which I have to say, in the behalf of our young people, we're so happy and we feel empowered that we have the council backing us up, making sure we are given opportunities fairly and not being discriminated because of something we didn't have a decision, well, some of us don't have a decision on. So we just hope in the future that can come more opportunities for young people in education, career, healthcare, all those areas. We also have events coming up, and we'd love to have more, workers as well coming to it. The more workers with young people, the better you get to connect with them. So I'm going to start with, in the 16th of August, for 16 to 25, we have like a workshop where K-leavers, specifically, or young people that are leaving to go into K-leave, they'll get a lot of information on services they'll need or they can get support in. I think this is crucial because sometimes we'll leave care and we don't know what services out there for us. Even the ones that are not in the council, there is other ones that will support young people in care or that should come out in care. So it's all those events. We'd love to have loads of workers coming in. We have many different services. I can name, obviously, the Thurrock will be there to represent themselves as well. We're going to have, I believe, healthcare, all these different sectors. And I may say as well, we're trying to type up a little cookbook for our young people because it's hard to learn how to cook, especially at a young age. So we thought, why not? Let's just do a few little recipes and give them out. We also have Grange Waters on the 23rd of August, which is to represent with positive relationships, sorry. So that's the whole meaning of the Grange Waters. So it's talking about how can we go forward and make positive relationships, not just within the young people, but also the workers and, creating that trust and connection. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you both very much for that and for updating us all. It sounds brilliant. May I ask, how do you get the funds for all your T-shirts and gift bags? Do you fundraise or do you get that gifted to you as like an allowance or working?
I'd say it's Thurrock. At the moment, it's literally Thurrock that covers that, which is, like I said, it's nice to see that we are getting supported through all these different things. It does make a big difference and empowers our young people to come. And we feel like we have our own team. When we sit such things like this, corporate parenting or committees, we have our own team. We get to come here and, represent that. So, yeah, thank you.
Can you make a lot of your own decisions, or do you find that the council decide a lot of things how you run, or are you able to sort of have quite a lot of input in how you run these events and things?
Do you know what? That's a good question. Do you know what? We actually get to do quite a lot of decisions. Of course, there's some we need to understand that within the rights of the council, there's certain things for safeguarding wires and stuff like that we can't do. But most of them, I'd say, is literally our young people. For example, the event I mentioned, 16th of August, it actually came from an idea of mine and taken into both Carly and Joe. And now we made that into an actual event. CLA Awards was very much young people based and run. So that was all of our ideas. Young Voice in itself, the way it was built up was by young people. So everything that goes on, it tends to be from experiences we experience or we come up and say, do you know what, our council needs this. So it goes from that. It's like interview panels and training panels. It does come from our young people. So it is powered by us.
Excellent, thank you. Do any members have any questions or comments, please?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, and at the risk of sounding patronising, because an old fart like me, who I'm sure does sound patronising, although I can say I've got a 17-year-old child, so I do know some of the issues that you go through in life, but I've sort of witnessed the work that you've done in the last few days, particularly the performance of the people who appeared at full council and the way you've acquitted yourself this evening and looking at the work. So you are absolutely doing an absolutely amazing piece of work, and you should be very proud of what you've done, and I hope you don't take that as some, I really think you are making a difference, which is why I want to ask a question, probably of Jasmine. When you had your workshop and you said you had 28 officers there, which is really, really good, what was the makeup of that officer cohort of 28? Where did they actually come from across the structure of the care system?
We had, in those 28, it was quite a mixture. There was PAs, social workers, I think some people from the fostering team, and some managers as well that came along to witness our work. Yeah.
Did you make, easy to say, probably difficult to prove, did you feel that it actually made a difference and they were listening to what you were saying?
From what I could tell, with how they just seemed really engaged in what we were saying. They were just sitting there listening, putting in their input, asking any questions they had, and it just seemed like they were showing an interest, and especially with what I've witnessed from my social worker, I feel like it has made a slight difference in the way that they run, and some health visitors in what they do as well has slightly changed as well. So I think it's made a slight impact, but as we go further into the future, hopefully the impact will become much greater.
So, sorry, may I add something onto that? Because we did get feedback that it actually allowed us to add more training. So at the beginning, we were only looking to do once a year, but we had feedback saying this should be something that happens more often and actually get more workers to come in. Compulsory, that was it. They came up to us and said this needs to be more compulsory. So now we have 3 of them a year. So we've done 1 in May, 1 recently, and then we have 1 in October, I believe. So it's becoming more compulsory.
Yeah, with your indulgence, Chair, just one more. Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. We're often challenged as councillors when we do something, when we form a task group or we're on part of a committee, we're asked, how do you judge success? And what we tend to do is sort of have a wrap-up session after an event. For example, I'm working with a task force at the minute. When it's done, we will sit down and analyse what we actually achieved, the pros and the cons, and there will be negatives come out of some things. And it's important that we don't just focus on the positives, great as they are. But we then learn, because you probably learn more from things that fail than you do from things that succeed. So just as a little bit of advice, you just had a couple of days ago. I think if you've got time in your clearly hectic schedules, if you maybe just had a session when you reviewed the effectiveness of those workshops and the pros and cons and reported it back, I think that would be, you don't necessarily mean to report it back to this committee, but report it back to the officer cohort here. Because I think, as I say, it's really important that this great work that you're doing, every single second of it must be appreciated and made good value from it. So that's a little bit of advice, but absolutely fantastic job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It's really inspiring, and it's really lovely to hear from young people such as yourself. Can you just tell me a little bit about the young inspectors? What is it and what is it about?
Do you know what? That one, I don't know too much. I know we are waiting for young people to sign up. Younger spaces, that when we go into housing, like children housing and kind of talk to them and see what they need or what they feel like it could go better or what is already going well. But we also get a chance to speak to staff and make like a little assessment on, you know, what, I guess, the environment or what they're going through and stuff like that, and then report back to maybe the managers or workers and say, what can we do better for these young people? But we are waiting to get people signed up onto it, so it's fairly new. Thank you.
Love to hear more about it as it goes on. So my question to you is, what can we do more to support yous?
I'm glad you asked this. I'm glad you asked this. Do you know, I would love to think that in the future we can have more workers and even counsellors to come and meet our young people, because we do have smart, intelligent young people who do have so many ambitions, and sometimes they don't feel comfortable to come into such a room. But when you do hear them talk, you honestly think that they have such like amazing future ahead of them, and the way they want to empower young people. We're only two of such an amazing like bunch in Thurrock. So I'd love to have more counsellors come in, you know, and workers, because we do have a voice 100%, but we need, you know, the higher up people to back us up and feel like, you know what, we are well supported, and it's not just a council, but we are a family overall. So I think, yeah, just more support, more awareness, and just come and talk to our young people. I think that's all I say, just come and get to know us.
Consider it done. I'll make sure that the councillors, Councillor Spate, you're the first one. We will be coming out and we'll see you, and so will some of the other councillors. I'm pretty sure that from all parties would love to participate with you.
Thank you so much.
Well, we've got their arms up to speak, but just on that point, and as Lee just made reference to me, I chair the People Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and we've just commissioned a task group, which thankfully the chair of that task force is our chair this evening, Councillor Rigby, and I don't wish to usurp her authority on that committee, but we had it's working on obesity in young people and what things we can do. Look, we're not going to take an ounce off anybody's body in the time we've got to work at, but we can lay down some ideas for the future as part of that task force. And as part of that engagement, it will be down to Councillor Rigby, but if among your cohort of young people, I think it would be really great if one of you could come and join that committee and work with us and report to us and engage with us. We would benefit massively from having some young voices. Councillor Rigby, I hope that's not undermining your role as chair, and if it is, I apologise.
That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Spate. Yes, certainly we will be getting involved with, you know, local young people, and you would be an excellent cohort to join if you'd like to be either part of the committee or involved in. We're going to be running some workshops and things as well. So I'm meeting with the Director of Public Health next week, so we'll have a better outline of the programme. But if you were interested in contributing in some way, then that would be fantastic.
Thank you. We'll definitely take that in. I'm sure young people would love to get involved.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Just really quickly going back, can you just send us a list of dates where you're available, and then we'll start getting the councillors rolled up to come and meet you, or wherever you want to be, or what you want to do, and we've got young councillors as well that would come along.
We'll definitely do that. I think we have, do you know what, I'd love to see you guys coming into things like Grange Waters. That's where we have the most of young people in, and you'll get an actual honest feedback. But even workshops, like I mentioned, 16th of August, and being there, because you do make, you know, sometimes those motions on what support we can get or what we can do. So it'd be nice to have you guys there as well, speaking to our young people and actually putting a face to a name. Because sometimes we'll be reading some of these documents and we see so many names and we don't know who's who. But it would be nice for our young people to know their councillors and the people in the local authority.
Was it Councillor Sisterton?
Yeah, I've got a quick bit. Just a quick question. How could we increase the number of care leavers and children in care joining your group? Because there's quite large numbers. What could we do to help you get more membership?
I think is, like we say, raising awareness on it. but also like inspiring them to go into it and actually mention all these things that we do. Of course, we can only do so much. Of course, I try and always get more young people, so that's Jasmine and other young people in the Young Voices. But to have someone like yourselves to say, do you know what, this is an amazing group to get these care leavers involved, and even people in, within care, it'll be good as well, because it does change you a lot when you go to Young Voices. I'm not saying this to be biased, but I'm saying this as an experience where I came in very quiet, very anxious, and I couldn't even stand here and talk. But from making so many events and being part of so many things, it gave me that confidence to empower other young people and actually be here and say, do you know what, we need this and what is going well. So I'd love for our counsellors and other workers to actually promote it more and have a good word in, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. If I may just sort of have a supplementary. It would be, there will be children who will be hard to reach, and staff will know which ones maybe we should be trying to attract into your groupings. Perhaps we can do that somehow.
See, most of our young people, so they went for a lot. So we kind of tend to not use that term. We say just sometimes they need time and patience. And you have to see some of these young people experience some stuff we can't even think of, and we wouldn't put in anyone's shoes. We can't. But I think it's just empowering them and supporting them. That's what they need to. They don't need to say, do you know what, this young person is too hard to deal with, so maybe we'll come back. Or we need to just empower them and say, do you know what, don't let your past define you, but let it empower you. That's the best way I can think of. But yeah.
Councillor Sisters.
Yeah, it was following up from John. I just wondered how many young people are involved in your organisation and how you do encourage children to get involved.
Do you know, I think we have now close to the 30s, I'd say, because I don't know a specific number, but maybe around 26, 27 or more. And we have some of them that join online or in person, because we have young people everywhere. But we'd love to get more. The more people, the better, so we can raise awareness. And it will also look nice as in the Thurrock to see that we have a family, not just a local authority. But yeah, thank you.
I'll just follow up on that, because I'm just thinking, obviously, events like the Grange Waters would be a way of getting more. You probably have a good turnout to events like that, and that might be a step towards getting. Yeah, okay, thank you. So,
how do you link up with the youth cabinet? Are you sort of totally separate, or do you have some overlaps with them?
Do you know what? I'm gonna have to say first and foremost that it was actually Carly that got us both together, and Joe as well. That's their work. They thought, you know what, we came up with such a brilliant idea, and obviously we had the support of the managers on Children's Services. I also have to say that. But I thought we thought it would be more powerful to have other young people that per se they never experienced the care system, actually make them understand what it is. And when we did our first meeting and spoke how important it was for us, they were on board. They wanted to get involved. We actually had more than those two young people that wanted to get involved, but we can only select 4 of us, so 2 from Thurrock Young Voices and 2 from the Youth Cabinet. But we'd love to do more work with them in the future. It will be something nice, and it will be empowering for both, I say, young people to come together and share their experiences.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments from members? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending this evening.
Can we...
I was just about to say yes. Thank you very much for attending. I was going to say, do feel free to leave if you'd like to. Yes, thank you. So, agenda item 6 is the Children's Social Care Performance 2023 to 2024. May I ask Elise McQueen to present the report, please?
This report provides information on performance across children's looked after and aftercare, and it generally focuses on the performance between January to March 23-24. Excuse my voice in advance. Okay. So at the end of quarter 4 23-24, we had 290 children looked after by Thurrock Council and a further 269 care experienced young adults aged 18 plus. Children and young people are visited regularly, and the management of missing children is consistent and reflects good partnership with the police and Thurrock Council. Improvement is required around the timeliness of IHA assessments, which is covered further in the report, which is an area of focus with health partners. The aftercare service continues to focus on improving outcomes for young children as they transition to adulthood and move into independence. And areas which we are seeking to show improved outcomes on include supporting increased number of young people in education, employment and training, and ensuring young people have the right accommodation to meet their needs. Children are mostly placed with foster carers or where safe and possible with family members, and Thurrock Council continues to embed its Think Family approach to reduce the need for children to enter care. Foster care recruitment continues to develop for local placements for children. And I'll just touch on a few key highlights going down the report. So I'm going past page 20, 3.1, to say that we've had a decline in children who've become looked after over the recent 2 to 3 years, which in my view demonstrates that the work that we're doing with families to keep children at home where it's safe to do so. And there's a picture there, a graph there, that represents where we sit in terms of our statistical neighbours, and you can see that they sit at 411 and we average around 290. We've said a little bit about the population of children per 10,000, but in Thurrock it equates to 65 per 10,000, and this still remains below the statistical and national outturn. And there's a graph there to example that. And I think obviously the statistical neighbours in England, it's really stark when you look at that, when you can see the below numbers that we have. Unaccompanied asylum children. So we used to, in terms of, we're part of the National Transfer Scheme, that changed in 2016. It used to operate on a 0.07 for Thurrock. That represented a population of around 17 children. A population of 27 children. However, when the National Transfer Scheme rose to 0.1%, that saw an increase from 27 to 44. So 44 unaccompanied asylum seeking children is our kind of ceiling that we work to. Okay, and there's a graph there that you can see in terms of the unaccompanied. Children looked after episodes cease. So it's normal for the number of children leaving care to fluctuate, looked after compared to 125 in the same period of 2021. From April 2023 to March 2024, 131 children ceased to be cared for. 52 of the 131 children ceased to be cared for because they turned 18 years of age, and of that we had 41 males and 11 females. 21 of this number were former UAS. And I think the gender represents the number of, we have a higher number of male unaccompanied than we do females. And there's a graph there to support. There's kind of 4 factors contributing and impacting on the number of children in care. So that's children coming into care, it's a total number of children entering, and children leaving care, and the number of US unaccompanied who remain looked after. And again, I've given a graph there to assist year on year, so people get a picture of the population and the trends and the themes. Okay, oops. Sorry, my thing stopped. So I'm moving down onto page 24. There's a graph there about children looked after episodes and children who started to be looked after. You can see a peak that we had last year in comparison, and that peak is because we had 11 unaccompanied young people that came in at one time. And we also had a couple of large sibling groups, and it only takes a sibling group of between 5 and 7 to create a spike in any one month. But you can see after that period of time, it's remained relatively even. In terms of gender, again, that you can see there that we have more males than females. And again, that says that that's a reflection of our population of unaccompanied. Children by ethnicity. In terms of, we have a predominantly more white British ethnicity, and we have a higher black or black British than our statistical neighbours, who tend to have more mixed dual background. We have seen a slight increase in Asian or Asian British ethnicity, and what we do is we look at these in terms of the school census, so that we can see that the population of people that we're working with is similar to the school census, because you'd be concerned if you had a greater ethnic minority population than what's in the council. So we really keep our eye on that to make sure that we're covering our safeguarding properly. Children looked after age profile. You can see here that I've said around 2024 we saw a decline in ages 16 plus, but we're still above the statistical neighbours. And then we've also seen an increase in the 10 to 15 age group. It's not a huge increase, a small increase. Sorry about my voice. I do a lot of talking in my job. Children looked after with disability. You can see here that we've got, at the end of March, there was 33 children with children disability from our Children Disability Service. And you can see there from the graph from quarter 2 2022 right through that's been relatively stable, how we work with our families. Looked after children primary need tends to be abuse or neglect, and secondary by absent parenting. And again, the absent parenting is the classification that we use for our UASC. We've got a number of offendings there. The children looked after versus general population, and you can see there 23% of our children are within the Youth Justice Service. Just want to make sure I represent that properly. Hang on.
No, it's not.
No, it's 23% here. Sorry, do you want to say?
19 children.
Yeah, sorry, where are you looking at? Sorry, I've lost my trail of thought. Let me go over it.
Claire can comment on that after.
So, okay. All right, then I'll move on. So I just want to say the above graph that's there represents percentage of children looked after versus the total of number of young people in the youth justice system for the last 5 years. There's been a slight increase since 21-22, but overall the figures remained relatively static. And it needs to be taken into consideration that the numbers overall are very small, so this will reflect the percentage. I think I'll allow Claire's area of expertise to comment on this if anybody's got any questions after.
That's fine.
Okay. So children looked after missing and return home interviews. So we've got a graph here saying that between April 23 and 24 there were a total of 416 missing episodes, and a reduction on the previous year of 530, and a reduction on the year before that of 566. So what this is showing is that year on year we're working better with our young children in terms of missing. Whilst the number of episodes are high, the actual number of children is quite small. And you'll see in the graph there we had, of quarter 4, we had 86 episodes of missing, but that actually represented 24 young people, and of 5 of that was our unaccompanied. From April the 1st, 2023, the return home interview service transferred from the Inspire Hub, and what this shows here is that we really try as much as possible to offer every young person that goes missing, whether that's an hour past midnight report missing to the next day a return home interview. And you can see here that our return home interviews offered is 98.7, of which the majority, over almost 95% of our young people, accept a return home interview, and that allows us to talk to them and trying to work with them to negotiate about a way of keeping in contact with their carers so we know where they are. Most young people who tend to go missing is because they want to have contact with a partner or a family member, friends. I think as well is like we're really creative in the way that we try to engage young people. So if they don't want to particularly talk to, return home interview person who's gone, maybe it's their social worker or a youth worker, so that we can make that connection and we collaborate. I think the visits you can see, and I mentioned earlier in terms of the timescales, and I think the children looked after initial health assessments, which I've included there on page 30. I mean, this has been an ongoing factor for Thurrock, as you know, and county-wide in terms of children having their initial health assessments within timescale. I think that it's true to say that our all children are offered initial health assessment. All children are offered a health assessment. It's the timescale in which that they can take place. They should take place within 20 working days. However, due to some of the shortages within the health service, being able to meet those children's needs, that wasn't able to happen. They have since recruited a paediatrician, and since that paediatrician's been recruited, we've seen an increase in the timeliness of the return home interviews being offered, albeit though some of those are still overdue. And you can see there in terms of Q4, 31 children looked after initial health assessments were due to be completed, and 12.9% of these were completed within the timescale. And obviously that was a decrease compared to Q3, when 28 children looked after initial health assessments were due to be completed. And we now have the paediatrician who's in post, and we're assured that that paediatrician is going to remain in post certainly for a period of time to bring our initial health assessments in time, but towards our 70% target that we've set ourselves. Strengths and difficulties questionnaire I'll just touch on briefly, and then I'm going to move on. What that does is that supports us with our children's emotional well-being. So it's like an assessment, and we apply figures. If the figures are really high, then we make sure that we offer better therapeutic support and a wraparound support for those children. So it's like an indicator of emotional well-being. I think I'm taking rather a long time, so I'm going to go down. There's a bit here about the aftercare service that you can see in terms of the diagrams of our In Touch. It's got the population there. One of the things I will touch on is in terms of our education, employment and training. You can see there that we are 49%, at the end of Q4, 49% of care leavers aged 19 to 21-year-old are in part full-time education, and this is below the 55% of our statistical neighbours, and which is 56% in England. So I've said a bit about strengthening the oversight and planning, but I know we are going to talk about our EATS today. There's an agenda item. Suitable accommodation as well is very good. As you can see, we're higher than our statistical neighbours, and In Touch we're also higher than our statistical neighbours. So I'm sorry that took slightly longer than I wanted it to, but thank you.
Thank you very much for your report and for all you and your team's hard work. So it's good that, very encouraging that your sort of figures are above, statistical neighbours. That's excellent. When you talk about managing to get children with families rather than in care, what sort of do you find is the average time period that they may have to spend looked after before going back to their families? Or because that seems to be one of your successes, is getting a high number back with families.
That's a kind of loaded question, really, because the way that we work is that any child that comes into care, so say if they come into care, I don't know, it's a voluntary arrangement, which we call Section 20, and even before they come into care, our emphasis is about getting them home. So children can come into care and they can go home within a week, they could go home within the first month. If we are in a situation of safeguarding and they need to come into foster care, and part of the thing we do is an assessment. So it may be, if we go into proceedings, I'm going into the law, but if we go into proceedings and proceedings takes 26 weeks, it may be that we wait to the end of the proceedings where those children have their permanence plan. However, if there's family members within that 26 weeks who we assess with connected carers and they go to our fostering panel, then we get them home quicker than 26 weeks. So actually it's a kind of a move in progress. I think it's only when we're in proceedings for a longer period of time and children have been in foster care that we want to kind of try and have some level of stability before the final outcome, and then we make a permanence plan. But we're quite fortunate for those children, because a lot of our children who stay in care, of those that stay in care, not a lot, of those that stay in care, are in a foster placement, we're quite blessed really that those children can remain with quite a few of those foster care, and then we link them so they then still experience permanence. But your question was, how soon do we get them home? Mm-hmm.
So for our children in care, if a child becomes known to us, we're always looking at permanency. So permanency is a really big feature in terms of thinking about what happens to children. So if a child comes in through the front door, we get a referral. We're always thinking about what are the options for the child. So if a child needs to be looked after, we will immediately look at extended family networks. So we will look at the immediate family. We will look within the network. We'll always ask parents, is there anybody within the family network that can look after the children if you're not able to? We use a think family approach, and we have family network meetings. So at that point, we would expect families to hopefully, with our support, come up with some solutions where children can't remain at home. So in an ideal situation, children are able to go to family members whilst we do our assessment, so that they can still have that contact and they can maintain things like school and family relationships. So a child might be in care but remain with family members. That's not out of the question.
I think that the other
And what do you think is the main thing that you perhaps do differently to your neighbours that makes you more successful in this area?
In terms of looked after children and our numbers, so I know that, I've been in Thurrock for 6+ years, and we've had a real focus on making sure we've got the right children in care at the right time. So making sure that children aren't drifted in care, so making sure that we don't have children in care who can be at home. So as Elisa said, where children can be with their parents, if it's safe and appropriate to do so, then we will always try and find solutions to do that. We don't only place children in care with an outcome of them not being back with their parents. If they can go back to their parents, we do work around parenting support. We do all sorts of things really to enable parents to have the support they need to be able to look after their children. But also, we may have a final outcome that the child needs to be in care, but what we would always be doing is reviewing those children to see if their family circumstances have changed. So what we may end up with is children returning home after a year. So it might be that the final outcome was that they needed to be in care, but it doesn't mean that we then decide that parents can never do it. It just means they can't do it at that time. And so we would always revisit that and see if it's possible. Because we know that for lots of children, they will return home, especially post-18. So if it's at all possible for them to be with their families, then we would always think that's the best option. It's not to say other local authorities don't do that, but we've had a real focus on permanency and making sure that children have the right options and the right choices available to them.
Thank you. Who was first? Councillor.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I notice from the statistics about children that are in care that they're living outside the borough, we are failing in that we've got 28% as against the target, which is substantially less than that. And we're worse than some of our neighbours. That concerns me, and it concerns me partly because of experience over the last few years of how we go out to recruit foster families and locally. We have a fairly myopic marketing plan to bring foster carers into Thurrock. Or to get foster carers into Thurrock. There are some very attractive financial packages to be a foster carer. There really are. We're certainly making the effort, and we're not sparing the rod there. But in terms of effectiveness, it would seem that given that it's 1 in 4 of our kids are outside the borough. You can say 28%, but it's 1 in 4. Sounds a heck of a lot more dramatic. And I know that going forwards, the fostering department is under increasing pressure to manage its finances to the extent that it's having to cut some of the things that it wants to do, which pressure is no doubt coming down from commissioners. I'm also aware that neighbouring authorities are looking at Thurrock as an area where they can come in and recruit foster carers. And indeed in September, an authority is coming in and making a big promotional effort in Thurrock. So they're going to mop up some of the people who might otherwise be looking after Thurrock children in care. And so we in turn may have to be sending our kids further afield, which isn't possibly going to be helping with their care, their rehabilitation, and keeping them in touch with, as you so rightly say, our prime aim, which is to keep them in touch with their families. If they're being shipped out a long way away to be cared for, then it's less likely that they're going to have that constant contact with family. So can you give us any sort of assurances that the foster service is not suffering adversely from the financial pressures that the council is under? Because children's services are supposed to be ring-fenced. We're supposed to be able to look at, make looking after our children an absolute priority. It seems to me, when I hear that we're cancelling things, cancelling recruitment events, we're obviously not treating it as a priority, given that we're so far short of our target.
I think I would like to kind of give assurances. I feel we've been really well supported in children's services around fostering, and I can see one of the foster carers has put her hands up, but we are very well supported around our recruitment. We've not been asked to make significant cuts in terms of recruitment. We're part of a regional recruitment drive. Any new initiatives that are out there we are actively involved with. We recruit just outside Thurrock as well, so obviously we want our children to be in Thurrock. There will be campaigns in Thurrock. What we can't do is prevent private, especially private fostering agencies from recruiting in Thurrock. Wherever we think there are possibilities that we can recruit, we're out there. We don't want children to be outside of Thurrock either. There are going to be some children that are outside of the area because of the very mere fact that they will have specialist needs that we may not be able to, and there may be placements they need that we can't provide or we don't have in Thurrock. But I would say that we've got a very good recruitment team. They work very hard. They're out in the community every day, and it isn't an issue of resource being applied to us. We've been involved in some initiatives around some filming that I think all local authorities are in. So we're trying to make sure that we're competitive, not just in terms of the money we give to foster carers, because foster carers don't do it just for the money, and the money wouldn't keep foster carers, if I'm honest. The money won't keep foster carers on their own. I can see you're sceptical about that. But actually, a lot of it is about support as well. Without the support that you give to foster carers, then you will not keep them. And we've got some very good foster carers, and so we are actively recruiting. It's a national issue, not just a Thurrock issue. We're not the only local authority that is struggling to recruit.
But we are behind on our target, so it should be a priority, should it not, to get to at least the national standard in terms of numbers?
I'm not sure what you mean by the national standard.
But it said that we're running at 28% of children outside of Thurrock. To me, we should be looking, we should have a concerted plan to be hitting, to keep performance indicators. We should have a plan to say, well, with the very minimum we've achieved, the target is to be the national average. The very minimum. We really. I do apologise. No, it isn't. There you go. It's sitting next to John. It's catching. But yeah, so hopefully, you got my point there anyway. I would like. I don't see much assurance in that report that says we recognise we're behind the clock a bit and we're going to do X, Y, and Z to put it right. Now, it may well be you are doing X, Y, and Z, but if that's the case, it should be in the report so we know that it's going to happen. and then we've got something to measure against. If this time next year we haven't hit that target, we can say, why did X, Y, and Z not work? You know, we're here to scrutinise everything that's going on, and it's not a personal criticism of anybody or whatever. It's just the fact that the facts there, the key performance indicators, say that we're not hitting a target, and I just want to know that we're actually striving to hit that target.
Thank you. Can I respond to that? So I certainly don't take it personally. I would expect members within this committee to scrutinise what we do and to challenge us and to push us. That's what you're there to do. Of course, we always want to hit the targets and be performing above. And in some areas, we are performing above. And of course, we would want to be, you know, if our statistical neighbours are at 23, we would want to be at 20. Of course, that's where we want to be. But I can't stress enough how difficult it is to recruit foster carers currently, and that it is a national issue. And what you're seeing there is what we always have to compare against is the previous year's data for each local authority. We do want to increase, of course, and if anybody's got any ideas, we're willing to listen to those. We're willing to try different things. If you're aware of anything that's going on out there, or you think there's something we could do better, I'm really interested in hearing that, because we do want to improve. We want foster carers for our children in Thurrock, where they can continue to go to the same schools, be close to their families and their communities. So that is our aim. But what I wouldn't want to do is promise something that I can't absolutely say will happen. So I know that one of the foster carers...
Sorry, no, if I may just... I mean, nor would I ask you to do anything that you didn't believe that you could hit. There's no point having a target if you genuinely don't believe you can hit it. The reason why I'm so strong on this is I professionally, I work alongside some of the media initiatives that have come out of fostering in Thurrock. And I've spoken to some of the people on the team in Thurrock, and I've tried to help them as much as I can, and there's some great people who've got some good ideas. My concern is, as with every department in this council, every single department, we are under incredible pressure to cut corners, to save money, and to do things. And in some areas, we're actually finding that money, and surprisingly, we're finding some of it, from what I understand, relatively easily, and that's good. What I want to be absolutely assured of, because if it's not happening or you're worried about it, I'll go and bang on Mr. Commissioner's door very loudly, or Mr. Local Government Minister's door, and say, I don't care what the financial pressures are, I'm here to bat for the young children in Thurrock who are in need and who need help. And I'm really not having fiscal pressures stopping them getting the best opportunities. And so I'm actually, that's why I want the statistics in front of me. That's why I want your ambitions and your aims detailed, so that if you suddenly run up to rock and a hard place and you're struggling, then our job as councillors is to go and say, hey, we need to support these teams, we need to support this initiative, and if it's a case of money, we're going to find this money. If we have to go and rob Peter to pay Paul, that's what we'll do, because corporate parenting and doing it well is fundamental to this council being rated a good council. So although I'm a little bit aggressive, and you may even say antagonistic, it's because I want the end game to be a success.
That's absolutely fine. And what I would say is this committee, we usually, so the focus tonight is predominantly on care leavers. We always give our performance, that you can see how we're doing in each area. But what we can do is we would usually bring a report to this committee around recruitment and retention of foster carers. So that's something we would do. And in that we detail our ambitions, what our plan is, how we're progressing with it, so that you can get a good sense of that.
May I just ask something quickly to follow on from that? So these that are outside of the borough, I mean, that could be, you know, if they're just a few miles outside the borough or 100 miles outside the borough, that would play quite a big difference. So what sort of, do you have any information on that at all?
So the information within the report focuses on children looked after a place more than 20 miles. That's the measure on which that's what we're measured on, children who are placed more than 20 miles away from home.
So would that be that most of them are just over 20 miles, or could they be a few hundred miles away?
It could be that they're just over. Part of the difficulty we have as well, we have a high percentage of unaccompanied asylum seekers, so they're always going to be over 20 miles. We can't adjust for that. Some of the local authorities, so for example, if you're in the north, for example, I don't know, I'll name a place. If you're towards in the north of England, you are likely to have less unaccompanied asylum seekers. And if you look at our data, what you can see is that we have a high number. We're always at our number. We're always at our proportion of UASC.
That brings out quite an important point, that a fair number of the percentage that are outside the borough are unaccompanied asylum children. Is that correct?
They may be outside of the borough, but it's not about whether they're outside of the borough. When we're calculating the miles from home for unaccompanied asylum seekers, the number is, it's something like 900, isn't it? I can't remember the exact number, but the number is so high. It's a statistical number we're given to use for unaccompanied asylum seekers. So if you've got, obviously, children who are born in Thurrock and live in Thurrock and their families live in Thurrock, then it might be that they are 19 miles away from home. But if you're an unaccompanied asylum seeker, no matter where we place you, you're going to be over 20 miles away from home.
So can these figures be done maybe in two parts, so that they're the sort of children that are born in Thurrock, the percentage that they're within the borough, and then a separate statistic which includes the unaccompanied asylum seeker children, because that might sort of make it seem a bit more reasonable, I think, because it does make what you're saying there makes quite a big difference, I think, to how we would assess these figures here.
That's a good idea. I'll make sure that we do that going forward.
Thank you. Sorry, who was
My question is regarding health assessments. I can hear you said you have one pediatrician to conduct health assessment. Is that right?
That's right. Sorry, I know you want to move on. Sorry, Chair, but I know that one of the foster carers has had her hand up for a while and she wanted to talk about foster. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know it's probably not my place, but.
I was really surprised to hear about what you were saying about recruitment, because the recruitment team also have foster carers that go out with them, so that if people come along and ask questions, they've got foster carers to be factual about what it's like fostering. I think I'm looking, I don't know, you can't see, but that is the list for July and August of all the recruitment things we've got going where foster carers are going along. I think you have to be a certain person to be a foster carer. I think the statistics are that people think about it for over 2 to 4 years before they actually come along. They've got an idea. It's not a job, it's a vocation, it's your life. Yes, the financial packages have got so much better and we are now even keel with our neighbours. But that's not the be-all and end-all of being a foster carer, because it's the support that we get, and because we're a smaller borough, we do get a lot of support. I can't remember what else I was going to say, but the recruitment team, we've now joined Foster East, which, you know, is, I can't remember how many different councils are involved in that now. 11, all in different areas. I think me and Jackie are ambassadors, so that if somebody calls, you know, a really odd hour when recruitment aren't available and they want to speak to a foster carer, they can now speak to a foster carer within a certain amount of time. They are trying to do as much as they can to recruit carers. It's not just Thurrock, it is, I mean, if you could see the figures nationally of the shortage of foster carers, and I don't think it's not about money. It's just whether you feel you can do that, you can meet that criteria, because yeah, it's just not everybody can do it. So it doesn't matter how much, as you know, yes, of course, money will come into it in what you can spend on recruiting foster carers, and you know, the big flashy TV adverts, but sometimes, and a lot of it I think you'll find is word of mouth. It's through people talking, foster carers talking to other people. It's sometimes pinching foster carers from IFAs, from independents, because they don't get the support that we do. So I don't think it's about the recruitment team. I don't think it's about the money that the recruitment team have got. I just think it's a really niche job, and it doesn't, not everyone can do it. It has helped having John Lewis do adverts. I think that really helped. We have Fostering Fortnight in May. I think we made the idea as well with recruitment about not just doing it in May. So I think the recruitment team are looking at October for Thurrock as a refresher of, would you like to be a foster carer, So it isn't just about putting the money and more money into recruitment. We are getting out there. I mean, we had an email today asking if we could go to a Gurkha opening ceremony. They've asked if a foster carer would like to be there. There's going to be a new, I can't remember what it's called, a memorial going up. So, the recruitment team are trying to get involved in as much as they can. Sorry?
It's an opening on the 18th of August.
Yeah, so we've been asked if we wanted to go and have a stand there. So, the recruitment team are being asked to attend different things. And they are always looking for different ideas. So, as Janet said, if you guys have got ideas of where you think we can recruit more carers, then you just need to speak up and tell the recruitment team. I think that's about it. I'm sure there was more, but I can't remember it now because it's gone on.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah. Let me just put something in context here. It's I'm looking at the bigger vision of the council, and I work in the media. And I look at one of the biggest criticisms in the Best Value report was of Thurrock Council's communications team. It's shocking. It's not fit for purpose. And that was accepted by the commissioners. And steps are being taken to improve it. But only last night at Corporate Services, the state of the communication strategy was discussed. And it was, to say it was lacklustre and unimpressive in my eye would be an understatement, but other people may have a different view. You just said you've got a list of all those things there on your phone and you showed them. My question would be, how are they marketed? Who knows about them? What help do you get to make sure that everybody who possibly could know that those events are happening? Because I genuinely do not believe that this council is exploiting the potential number of foster carers that we have within this borough because we have a really, really poor communication strategy. That's not your fault. You can only go to Corporate Services and say, we're doing this, can you market it for us? And quite frankly, they don't. And it's not just your department that struggles.
Okay, I think we'll call that a line, but I would like to say thank you very much for all your work you do as a foster carer. Okay, thank you. If we can move back to Councillor.
Thank you. I was asking about health assessments. You said you have just one pediatrician that manages the whole assessments. So if that is the case, because when a child goes into care, they need to have their health assessment done as quickly as possible, just in case the child has any health issues or underlying health condition that needs to be picked up before it goes into care. So if your health assessment is kind of delayed, is there anything that we can do to support, to maybe recruit or kind of support the department to make sure that the backlog of health assessment is cleared and the children get the health assessments as quickly as possible so it doesn't take long for them to get the health assessments done? And then number two is regarding emotional well-being service, because I know there's long waiting lists in camps. So how our young people who are in care or who are caregivers, how are they being supported to make sure that they get the support of the emotional well-being service from camps so they don't stay too long on the waiting list before being assessed and offer support? So how are we managing that? Thank you.
Okay, so the first point in terms of the paediatrician, I think that's the way I worded it in the report. What happened, there is a number of paediatricians, but what happens is one of the paediatricians was off, and over time this had created a backlog. That paediatrician has now returned, but in addition to that, they've recruited the locum, so they have the additional locum and the paediatrician along with the group paediatricians. So that's why they're confident that the numbers will be brought up to date. But I didn't obviously put the detail of the paediatrician being off work in the report. So that's that. The second point about in terms of the emotional well-being, yes, that's correct in terms of our children looked after, but we have a very good, we've got CAMS here. You may want to, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, thank you, I will. Okay. So actually CAMS services give priority to looked after children, so we have a very close relationship with our colleagues in social care, and we offer consultation to our social work colleagues so that if they are concerned about any of the children that they're working with, that they can discuss those children with us, and we'll see them within 10 days for an assessment. So we first of all meet with the social workers, we look at the child's history and developmental history so that we can try to ascertain the best way to approach the assessment with them. As I say, we prioritise those children so they don't wait very long to have that assessment, and we can understand what their needs are and then put a care plan together. So in actual fact, we've got quite good outcomes for our work with looked after children. We report here regularly in terms of how many children we're seeing and what the outcomes of those pieces of work are. And we also get involved in the SDQ meetings that happen, so we're understanding those young people's needs from the SDQs and being able to talk together, discuss those needs together with the social workers, foster carers and all those people within that forum, so that we can identify the best needs, way of approaching that child's needs.
Just in answer to the first part of your question about health needs of young people who are looked after, so in terms of the initial health assessments, of course, we would want all of our children to have an initial health assessment within that 28-day period. But we're really clear that children's health needs are a priority. So we wouldn't wait. If we thought a child, you know, if a young person comes into our care and we feel that there's a health need and we need them to be seen, we will make sure that they are seen either at hospital or by a doctor. All of our looked after children are registered with GPs when they come into care. What I would expect in this committee is that going forward we will have a report from health in terms of their ability to meet those health needs as well. And any support that you can give will be appreciated.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry? Who's somebody on screen wants to say something?
We've got somebody on Teams from the NHS who has requested that they can ask a question, if that's okay.
They can ask a question?
They can answer the question.
On what?
On the assessments and the funding.
Can I say my question, because she's going to want to answer mine, I think.
Okay,
well.
yeah.
So I'm really pleased you said that NELF is sitting on there, as well as the IC. Is the ICB here at all, or is it just NELF?
I'm here. I'm from the ICB.
I don't think you're. So my bugbear has always been, and it has been for absolute years now, about the backlog that goes on with the initial health assessments. We know it's a statutory requirement, and we know it's not being fulfilled. We also know that there's a contract going with NELF, and I've asked over and over again that our target is 70%, and what is in their contract to do this. So if we look at Q4, you've got 34 CLAs, and I'm no way I am laying this at the council's door. This is why I want NELF to answer the question. And there was only 12.9% completed. That means there's only 4, which left 27. So in Q2, did that 27 then roll over into Q4? And then did that go up to 55 with only 11 completed? What are we doing in order that we can catch up with this? Because as I keep saying, this is a statutory requirement that is detrimental for their foster carers, as well as the council, as well as the child itself. And it's so important, this assessment, that we haven't got a grip with it, NELF and the ICB, and I'm really glad that it's got to a part that we've had to escalate it to the Chief Executive of the ICB, that then when I set a task and finish group, and then said, okay, we'll give you someone to help you for 3 months and then extend that. But this has been going on for years. This isn't now. So what are we going to do to actually finish this and crack this?
So if we can go to, I'm not sure the name.
Paris Innes.
Sorry,
Paris.
Paris Innes,
Oh,
please.
it's the
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's Ines Paris. I'm the designated lead safeguarding nurse for Mid and South Essex ICB, and I'll start just by reiterating that the initial health assessments are a priority, and we are supporting our providers in looking at alternative ways that those can be completed. So in the interim and as of June, NELFT have been able to access further additional funding to recruit a paediatrician to help with the backlog. And we are looking at a short-term solution in relation to that. And in addition to this, we have started putting a case forward to have initial health assessments commissioned in a different way. So we're looking at a different model of delivery. So no longer to be fully dependent on paediatric capacity, because the capacity of paediatricians is a national problem and is not going to be sought anytime soon. And as you know, the IHAs need to be completed by a doctor, which means that the options available to the ICB and to our providers across MSE are limited. So we are putting a proposal forward that is going to standardise initial health assessments across Mid and South Essex, reduce inequalities, and hopefully ensure that the full capacity of paediatricians across MSE can be used to tackle all the numbers of initial health assessments that we have to cover. So it is an absolute priority for us to ensure that these are prioritised and we have sustainable solutions.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you. That's really reassuring to think that we've got a bit of a plan going. However, when do you think that plan will actually be where we've covered all the backlog, including when we are covering the backlog, we're going to have more coming in?
So I believe NELFT is not here, which they would be the best place to talk about the data. We meet monthly on the Task and Finish group, and we are working hard. So we've just invited our colleagues in the local authority as stakeholders for them to come and be part of the Task and Finish group this week, and we hope that we can then expedite it and looking at the next few months to have the proposal forward, so we can then have it approved through governance.
I would really love to meet you and get to know what your programme is, because, as I said, this has been NELF into GP practices, into now ICB, into NELF. It just seems that it's always something, and at the end of it, it is our looked after children that are detrimental here, along with our foster carers, and they're the ones that as a corporate parent, that's the ones who I'm protecting. So I really would like to get around a table with a portfolio holder for children's services and really find, or a task group from here, I don't care, but really find a way forward on this, because we can't just keep putting it on the door, it's funding, we haven't got the resources, it's funding. We need to find the resources. So
we're not putting it onto funding.
And I know it's a national problem. I work with it all the time. I work with a national problem. You're talking to somebody who works in local government, so we've always got a national problem. But we just somehow got to crack this, because 12.7% of the LAH that is being done is just not good enough. It's just not. Sorry.
Is that Councillor Watson? Sorry, I don't have screen, so I can only go by voice. Is that? Can I pass my email address so I can then arrange the meeting with you and
That's absolutely
the
fine, thank
commissioners?
you. And any other officer that wants to be present, I'm more than happy. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. I think we will need to round it up fairly quickly, but we can take a couple more questions. Do you want to
Hello, thank you. I'm sort of here to represent NELFT, although I'm sort of here to speak on behalf of CAMS. And just, I spoke to the assistant director tonight about this, and she said that actually she's been working really hard with the ICB to put together a plan that will look for a long-term resolution for this. She came here to present sort of fairly recently, And actually, you know, it is a national problem, and that's not an excuse. It's because of paediatricians having very limited capacity. We're seeing a lot of paediatricians retiring, and we're looking at how we can skill mix some of their work so that we can, you know, continue to deliver those services in a better way. Having said that, when you undertake initial health assessments, you have to offer those to all the looked after children in that area. So they're not just Thurrock looked after children, they're children that come into the area and placed here by other local authorities. And health have a responsibility to offer those initial health assessments to those children as well. So therefore, sometimes the number of children that are referred in every month are higher than you will see here in your data. But I will ask her to come and bring that data and bring a report to the next meeting.
Thank you. 2 years ago, that was exactly the same line. Is that we've got other areas in here, we've got a contract, we're all in it together. And my bit was, what was the target for Thurrock that had to be met? And nobody could give me that data. And that's what I want to know. You've got a target set within your contract for Thurrock, and where are we on the contract? Because we're only on 21%, which is not good enough. And we, with all the best will in the world, we're going to get more probably unaccompanied minors, and they are going to come with our port of entry, and they also need an assessment as well. So, and that goes all along the Thames estuary. So I just think, like, can we just see some tangible figures, what we're due here in Thurrock compared to what we're not getting, and then we can go from there, because it really isn't fair when we're placing a child in a foster place that hasn't got a learning, like that health assessment done on them. And I met a foster parent last week whose child hasn't had a health assessment on him, and he is showing classic signs of autism, but he hasn't had that done, and he's in a GP, but they're still waiting for that assessment to be done. And I just think that's slightly disingenuous to our foster carers, who do the most amazing job. And without them, we are completely lost. So we need to help them a little bit more. That's my personal opinion on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Quick, yeah.
As Councillor Rigby would know, because she sat in the meeting, as I mentioned earlier, at our ONS meeting on people last week, I brought forward as an urgent matter of business the fact that children in Thurrock are on average waiting 60 weeks to get to see specialist medical practitioners, as opposed to 30 weeks if you're in Broomfield or 45 weeks if you're in Southend. So I don't get that this is all about a national problem. I mean, those three districts are all run by the same ICB. So, you know, there needs to be cross-fertilisation, there needs to be work. And I would be very interested to see the outcome of this before the next, or any progress that is made, so I can report it back to my committee, because I think we're sort of on the same track. You know, children in Thurrock are getting the sharp end of the stick at the moment, and it's probably, everybody's doing the best that they can, but it, as Councillor Watson has just so strongly pointed out, you know, the same questions were being asked 2 years ago, and we've not moved forward, and we need to move forward in all matters, and I will be taking a real interest in this as chair of People ONS, and I ain't going to get, I'm not going to accept, as I'm sure Councillor Watson isn't going to accept, oh, it's a national problem, because that just is not really what I want to hear.
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you also to Innes Paris for coming in online as well. So if we can move to the recommendations, please.
Chair, you're not going to like this.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm glad you've come to the point of recommendations. I don't know who drew these recommendations up, but I'm just going to read. There are two recommendations for those people who haven't got it in front of them. If I could scroll down to it. The first one says that members note improvements in children's social care and note the work that is undertaken to ensure good and improving performance. Well, of course we would do that. there needs to be more clarification. I mean, we've also noted some of the failures. So I really don't get the wording, but 1.2 is the most banal piece of a recommendation I think I've ever read in my life. And I'll read it. Members scrutinise the performance data and provide challenge to the service as required on how, as corporate parents, we provide appropriate services, keep children and young people safe and promote good outcomes. What does that mean? Can somebody tell me what that means and what we're recommending about it? Because I just do not understand what it means. If we're going to have recommendations, there should be action points, or it should be we note a specific report. And it's exactly this kind of filibustery and non-targeted democratic services, or whatever you want to call it, that has not allowed us to make the progress that we need to make. We need to be sharp as a razor. That is as blunt as an old stone.
Okay. So in terms of the recommendations, my view is that they're fairly clear. There are improvements in children's social care, and we're asking you to note those and to look at any improving. But we're also saying, quite clearly, because it's important, that we're asking members to scrutinise that performance, which I think has been done tonight, and to provide challenge, which I also think has been done tonight. That is the purpose. And that's what we've been asked to do. That's what we're asking members to do. If there's something that people think we should be asking differently, because I don't think it's blunt. I don't think it's hard to understand. I think it's quite clear.
It's not a recommendation. It's, we sat, and you were very, very good. Your team, and a large number turned up at corporate parent training the other night. It was really good. You know, and we were asked to look at a number of things. So the fact that we turned up and we did the training and we spent the time and we've stood to come on this committee means that it's in the very nature of our souls that we're going to scrutinise the performance data and provide challenge to the service. It's a given. It's not a recommendation from what we've just heard or from your report. It's not a recommendation. It doesn't say it's a recommendation. It's members scrutinise. We're going to do that anyway. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, we'll note it. So if we agree with the recommendations to note the following: 1.1, that members note improvements in children's social care and note the work that is undertaken to ensure good and improving performance. Is that, members agreed on that one? Yeah. 1.2, so to note that members scrutinise the performance data and provide challenge to the service as required on how, as corporate parents, we provide appropriate services, keep children and young people safe and promote good outcomes. Great. Everyone agreed to that? I'll abstain. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Spites sustained. Okay, thank you for everyone again. Okay, item 7 is education, employment and training for care leavers. May I ask Elise McQueen to present the report, please?
I think because we've got very few mics that we're working in here tonight, so we're going to have to share, I'm afraid. So if I think you're going to have to sort of pass your one back, because your one's designated for you, Tina, I'm afraid. So just your mic in front of you, you're going to have to kind of pass it backwards and forwards, if that's okay. Sorry.
No problem. So I'm Sabrina Codrington. I'm a careers manager at Inspire Hub. It's not a youth hub anymore. We're all age for education, training and employment. I'm standing in for Kate today, who's not here, and she really wanted someone from her team to represent, which is why I'm here. I'm not sure how. Do you want to do the first few pages? I don't know if that's because I can go straight into the neat figures and then what we do. Is that okay?
That's fine if you want to.
Sorry.
Hi, so I'm Luke Frowen. I'm the service manager for leaving care and the aftercare service in children's. So the report sets out the work that we do jointly between children's social care and the aftercare team and the Inspire Hub to support young people to have opportunities to become educated or employed. The initial stage of the report are kind of the legislation that kind of underpins our responsibility as corporate parents to provide that appropriate support. It goes on to talk about some data around the national context, which kind of indicates that children who are care experienced or adults who have been care experienced are around 3 times as likely to be NEET as young people who haven't had those experiences, and provide some of the data in terms of Thurrock young people, where our 17 to 18-year-olds are around 63% are NEET at the end of June. This data is referring to 49% of our 17 to 21-year-olds were EAT during that period, and 43% of our 22 and 25-year-olds. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, that's great, thank you. Be a double act tonight. So Luke was saying obviously about the aftercare team. We work really closely. We think it's a great partnership. We need to be doing that. It can't be separated. We're together, and you know, we have two hubs. We have one in Grays, which is open Tuesday to Friday, and we have a hub which is open in Brennan Rose, Centurion House, you may know it as, on a Wednesday. So we have a dedicated person advisors 2.5 days a week to oversee the care leavers. So they are looked at through panel, and then we work then with those young people who need that intense support. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of what we actually do, so we have dedicated PA, as we said. We have various clubs, sessions that young people can get involved in, and it's really important that everyone knows about what we do. And I obviously invite anyone who would like to come attend the hubs. That's fine. So I'm just going to list what we do, some of the things we do that will help the care leavers, and it's enabling them and making sure that their journey is not just, you know, we're looking at the end goal of employment. It could be a journey that they're looking at volunteering first, and then slowly going into EAT. We know there's a lot of things that happen, and Carolina was saying before that some of the care leavers, we can't imagine what they've been through, and just to say to them, you're here today and you're going to be straight into a career, and you know, you'll be fine at doing that. We need to make sure we're enabling them to have everything possible before they even get to that stage that they're ready for employment. So that's why working with the aftercare team can come into the hubs, they work, they meet the young people, and then that engages the young person to know the hubs, to have that trusted place, and they work with the PAs and also the DWP, who is the job coaches for our young people as well. So it's a bit of a triangular approach when it comes to that offer for our young people. So just to quickly go through, because I could be here all night telling you what we do for the young people, and I'm more than happy to take questions. If anyone's got an idea, then just tell me, because we'd love to do something else for them. So first of all, we do Job and Skills Club. It's now delivered by Inspire. We have a level 6 qualified PA. This happens every Tuesday. They can come to a 3-week session. We did try to do a 6-week session, but it wasn't what they wanted. They wanted a 3-week, very intense, come to whatever week they wanted to, where they look at CV updating, cover letters, interview preparation, etc. The next course, we're going to be looking at preparing for adulthood and focusing on budgeting and preparing food on a budget. We also did an event previously looking at budgeting and with a slow cooker, and we had 5 care leavers attend, which was great. So we use the hub and make sure we do lots of different events just so they can get involved. We have music sessions that run on a Wednesday. for 15 to 24-year-olds, and one care leaver attends regularly, which is great, and another moved out of area, which is a shame, so he couldn't get there, but hopefully he'll be back in the area soon and he'll be joining in. We also have Mind, who attend bi-weekly, and anyone up to the age of 25 can attend, and that's looking at strategies for your well-being, and that group's growing really well. Again, it's just enabling and having something that, you know, if someone has got low mental health and they just need some help with strategies, they can attend that. That's not a problem. And these are all on offer to the care leavers. We've also now partnered with CVS, which is volunteering service, and Joanne comes to the hub monthly. We've started off monthly. We may get it gradually to bi-weekly because she's getting quite busy. And that's looking at care leavers and all our residents who want to get into volunteering. So it's another outlet for them. It might be that that's all that they want to do. That might be their goal, their aspiration is to work in volunteering, and that's absolutely fine. So she attends the hub on a Friday, normally towards the end of the month, which is good. And we have 3 care leavers that engage with CVS at the moment as well, and that's growing. We've got Levelling Up programme that's starting. We've been working with the NHS, and that should be starting October. It should have started earlier, but they didn't have the tutor, so they had to postpone that. And we've got 2 care leavers that are interested in those sessions, which will be over 6 weeks. And I work closely with the Forward Trust. It was Inclusions, so they are opposite, just down the road a little bit from Inspiring Greys, and we work closely with them because, again, barriers for drug and alcohol abuse, that may be some of our care leavers. So we can, they can come into the hub, we can see them one-to-one, or they can have a phone call with them, so that's really positive. And then we've got Central Training Group, which started, we've got a pilot running at the moment for 16 to 19-year-olds up to the 25 with an EHCP, and that's looking at maths, English, employability skills and work experience. And I'm working with Carly, who was part of the Youth Voice, the Voice earlier. So we're working together as well around the work experience for care leavers, and as corporate parents at all areas the council should be making sure that we're part of that, and that the care leavers have that opportunity for work experience. And then just lastly, wanted to speak about Padlet. I don't know if anyone ever has heard of Padlet. It's quite, it's not a new thing, but it's interesting because for professionals, we can put everything on one area, log on. It's only for professionals. No one else can just comment on it. Ourselves, I run the page with Sangeetha. We've got aftercare on there now, which is great. And basically, there's all different areas. I can show you it after if you would like to see it. And if a professional goes on and goes, oh, you want to go into volunteering? That's fine, let's go on Padlet. We've got all the details. Care leavers have got a dedicated area as well, so the aftercare team can have a look. They can come to us. And sometimes it might be that 5-minute look on the Padlet instead of, you know, half an hour trying to get through to a professional that just is doing something else. They've got the information there and then for that young person. So, yeah, that works quite well. We're going to hopefully come to one of the team meetings to speak about it with the aftercare team as well, just to go through some areas, see what needs improving on it. And, yeah, that's all we're doing at the moment, but hopefully we'll carry on. And we've got some really lovely outcomes. Just to give you an example, we've got one young person who's in a traineeship. He goes all the way from Ockenden, travels all the way to Basel, and it's a 2-hour journey. And then on a Friday, he normally pops in, tells us how his week's been, and he's doing really well. So that's a lovely outcome for him. And he gets on really well with the advisor at the hub, but also he has a really good relationship with the NHS worker as well, who is his kind of buddy at work, and that's working really well for him. And he says, I just feel like sometimes if I have that person that I can speak to and says, how's your day? Because they know that the weekend they haven't probably done as much as what they would have done as having a big family. He really appreciates that, so that's great. So he's doing really well, and he'll probably go into have a very good job within the NHS, which is great. And our PA also attended one of our care leavers who just graduated from Canterbury University and is going to Oxford in September, and he invited the PA because of all the work he did leading up to that. So, yeah, some really lovely outcomes. And I know we've got so many more that we've got to make sure go in to eat, but, yeah, you're more than welcome to come to the hub and see what we do.
I'll just pick up a couple of points about...
Yep. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Just, yeah, picking up on a couple of points from the report around the kind of joint working aspect, really. So we've always worked really closely with Inspire, but we're trying to kind of strengthen that arrangement and make it more robust. We have weekly e-panels which are chaired jointly by a colleague from Inspire and one of the team managers in the aftercare service. That's a panel where PAs come and discuss, personal advisors come and discuss the young people that they're working with who are NEET. Our PAs have a really good kind of understanding of their young people and what their needs are, what their barriers are, etc. And what we try to do is use that knowledge to kind of match those young people with experiences that will motivate them and excite them and present as not too scary or anxiety provoking for them, etc. So that we can kind of match the right offer with the young person. We kind of recognise from that work that sometimes the barriers are around some of what Sabrina was talking about, around kind of emotional kind of health and those kind of things. So we have a meeting next week with one of the senior managers in mind, which is one of the local counselling services, to try and bring them into that meeting and kind of get that kind of therapeutic aspect and kind of understanding, you know, if this young person isn't ready at the moment for any opportunity because there's some therapeutic need, what's kind of out there in the community that we can draw on to try and meet that need and reduce some of those barriers towards making them eat. The other thing the report mentions is some of the updates to our local offer, which I know there's a report later on in the agenda around that, but some of those aspects which are about kind of supporting young people in EAT around attending job interviews or graduation course or support to get books and materials and things like that for young people that are in college, which is something that's been working well and is appreciated by our young people. So, thank you. Pass this back now.
Thank you both for the report and all the work and enthusiasm you're doing. I just wonder, it seems that you are doing an awful lot, which is fantastic, but reading from the statistics, it seems that the percentages are lower here than elsewhere for being in education or training or employment. Why do you think that is, despite everything that you're doing? Is it just that it's a work in progress and it's improving? Did you start from a lower baseline, or are there other challenges to date?
I think there's always other challenges when it comes to a young person who is a care leaver. You think of someone who is just, you know, mainstream, they know what they're doing, but they have all these other areas that you have to get by first before you even get to the main, this is what we want to do. And I know that because we've had so many come through the door. With all different traumatic experiences. I would say mental health is a massive area for us. So that's why obviously we work with Mind and we have our group, but that's not even going to touch the service of what we need, I think. But I think it is mental health even beforehand. And we only have two PAs dedicated 2.5 days a week, which isn't enough, I would say.
That will increase that provision, or is that basically what you've got to work with?
That's all we've got at the moment, yeah. It's just with the service decreased by 25%. And they're fully booked. So we have 2 dedicated days a week for care leavers. And I think with the increase of the aftercare team, which is great, I think, you know, we have so many more come in now. I do think that will increase because we'll see that, you know, they come in, they'll know their aftercare workers there. As I say, the DWP's there, we're here. It makes that triangular approach a bit more steady for them and trusted that it's a space where they can come in. They do anyway. We have people that just come in and come out for 5 minutes. but it's enabling them to make the right choices as well. And I think it's a bigger picture. It's just not eat. It's not. There's a bigger picture that goes on before they even think about going in to eat.
Thank you.
Again, could I we should have just sat next to each other. One of the other things I think that we find is around kind of the opportunities that are available in Thurrock. I think particularly pre-COVID and during COVID, some of those opportunities kind of were less, and I think we have seen some of those opportunities that we would have expected for our young people prior to COVID haven't kind of returned to the community. One of the things that we used to have is a lot of young people kind of working with Amazon locally, and there were particular arrangements that were driven by Inspire around kind of giving work experience or employment opportunities there, and that's one of the things that we don't have anymore. And I think there are kind of that's an area that we want to strengthen and we want to develop. I mean, one of the recommendations for you guys as members is about kind of thinking about how can you use your influence when you're interacting with other parts of the local authority to kind of really champion the cause of care leavers, and kind of, you know, challenge our colleagues to kind of say, well, what opportunities are you offering for care leavers? Are you providing work experience in parks and gardens when you're kind of going out there? Some of the other work that we're kind of looking at is around how things are commissioned and how we use that social value aspect of the commissioning arrangement to kind of say, and what does that mean for our care leavers? You know, if we're paying somebody a contract to clean the thousands of windows that are in the local authority kind of building, you know, is there an offer there for a care leaver to kind of get some work experience with that company or that contractor? So really kind of trying to be creative about identifying what those opportunities are, and kind of engaging with those providers around a kind of trauma-informed approach to offering those opportunities to care leavers where there are those additional needs because of some of the things that Sabrina talked about.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I would be, but Councillor Spate's in.
Oh, Councillor Spate, please.
I'm happy to go with Councillor Leakey, but yeah, I've got two questions. The first one, clearly what we want to do at the end of this report is to say that we, and I'll use the words because I just sort of went down the recommendations, we wish to, well, we are aware of the 70% of care experienced young people to progress into whatever, and that's a target that we support and we want to help you get to that point. I'm just having a little bit of difficulty, and it's probably me because I'm thick, looking through the figures to actually ascertain, because there's some strange correlations of figures that are in the report. I mean, we've got the bits about 19 to 21-year-olds national leavers and whatever, and then the 19-year-old birthdays doesn't seem to correlate to anything in particular, because then that's in 2.3. Then we drop down to 3.1, where I think probably the most relevant to that 70% target is somewhere between the first two figures, where you've got 63.2% of care leavers aged between 17 and 18, and then you've got 49.1% of care leavers aged between 17 and 21. It would just be a little bit more helpful, I think, and if I'm the only one, then fine, but for us to look at how can we help you get to that 70% target, we really need to know where we are today. And I'm not sure that I can go through these figures and ascertain exactly where we are as opposed to that 70% today. Hopefully you can tell me where we are.
Sorry, thank you. The overall EAT figure as of the end of last month was 56% across all care leavers. Those age ranges are DFE defined reporting, which we report to DFE on a regular basis.
If I may, that's really helpful, because that shows the magnitude of what we've got to do to get that. You know, it's a quantum leap from 56 to 70. And I think, you know, you've got an awfully difficult challenge in front of you. So we've got to find as many ways as we possibly can to help you get there. And that's when I talk about what recommendations mean and what we can do. I just think we're at a starting point today of 56%. We're setting a target of 70. That's brilliant. I'm a very simplistic person. And now I see that target, that's really, really helpful to me. The second question, which you can ask briefly, answer briefly, I'm sure, this council has pulled the funding of organisations like Duke of Edinburgh and the Prince's Trust, which I know did an awful lot of great work with young people in that sort of age group that we're looking at. Has that made any sort of impact on the well-being of that age group in Thurrock?
Yes, I think it has. We used to have free programmes that ran 3 times a year with 10 students, 10, and they weren't just care leavers. They were, if they were neat in all areas. I think that has made a massive difference. Also, the Duke of Edinburgh, the same. We used to have care leavers that would complete Duke of Edinburgh as well, and we had our own programme for them. I would also say Barnardo's was a big part of Amazon, and they have now gone into London, so they've left Thurrock. Everyone is pleading for them to come back in, and they know how much of an impact that would be if they did come back into Thurrock. So, yeah, definitely, I can't say it hasn't. We do work with Prince's Trust on a different level now, though, as well. So, yes, that's gone. We don't obviously offer the Prince's Trust, but also they do. They used to give £250 for a grant. So we used to work with a construction company, and we used to get our funding for construction for CSCS card through the Prince's Trust. They'd give us 10 students, we'd obviously give them 10 students, and they would pay for that course, which is amazing. But then that funding has cut as well now to 150. So the CSCS card has now been cut as well for the moment. And we've got like 68 people who are wanting to complete the CSCS with us because they know us and they know what we do. And I know there is other people as well, but now we're working with the Skills Centre over at Basildon and South Essex College, and we work really closely with the DWP as well. So they know exactly what shortages we got, what we need for the area as well. So it's not for the want of trying different areas of how to get that funding. I think it's just really hard. I think everyone has scaled back. Even the Prince's Trust have.
Yeah, Chair. I get that there are some national issues that we've got a cost of living crisis across the country, yeah. But clearly, we've got a situation in Thurrock where we've made a specific action. I would like, Chair, to make a recommendation that, as well as we've got the 3 that we've already got on the board, that this committee asks Cabinet to look at the possibility of, even just looking at the possibility of restoring the funding towards associate partnership organisations like the Prince's Trust, like the Duke of Edinburgh's, because of the real difference they make to the potential of young people in this borough. And by cutting that funding, as has just been said, it has had an adverse impact. So I think all we can do as a committee is ask that Cabinet look at the possibility of reinstating that funding for those organisations. I'd like to make that as a recommendation. I don't know what other members want to do.
Point about that as well. Just the National Citizen Service as well, not National Career Service. Everyone always gets that mixed up. That has been taken over as well, and to get a contact for them for Thurrock is very difficult. I go everywhere. I go on LinkedIn, Facebook, and that was a massive. It was so good in this area. We got them all into all the various schools. We had them in the SEND schools, and it was a massive impact for our young people in Year 11 to actually do the NCS, and now that's not even here either. So we are working hard on trying to get that back as well.
If I add to that recommendation then, Chair, and other associate and former partner organisations, that we review our position in terms of our relationship with them. It may well be we get nowhere, but I think we should ask for it as a committee.
Councillor Spate, I've just conferred. We can't add it as a recommendation, but it can be noted, and it will go to Cabinet.
Why can't we have a recommendation from a committee?
Recommendation. Because it can't go down as that, but it is noted, and it will go to Cabinet as a request.
Well,
it's probably just a technicality.
Well,
but it is
I think
noted,
if it is a technicality, it's a stupid one. but I don't believe that it is a technicality. We've got so much business, I'm not going to press a point. But the fact that it's noted and goes to Cabinet, thank you.
That's what I've been informed, and that's.
So Councillor Spate, can I recommend that the reason it can only be noted, not a recommendation, the recommendations you can do in your scrutiny, not on a committee. So that's the way it is. So my recommendation to you, as chair of the People's ONS, put it on your agenda for your next meeting.
It's already down to do so, but thank you. But if it's noted, it goes from this meeting, that's fine.
Where were we? Councillor Lee.
My.
Oh, you on?
Yeah, I'm off.
Go on then. Go.
I'm going through the report, and I didn't see caregivers with special needs who have physical disability or learning disability. So how are they included in this process? The employability skills and bring their CV and be part of this program. You mentioned about how they included in this.
Yeah, they're inclusive. We make sure that all our SEND young people, if they're care leaver SEND, it doesn't matter. We support, and that's the bottom line. We're all inclusive. If we have a programme, everyone is involved. That's why when you see some figures, it may look low, but then when you look at the bigger picture, we will have SEND, we have care leavers, and we have mainstream all together. One of the music group especially has various abilities. We have, as I say, SEND, care leavers and mainstream mix really well together actually, and it's lovely to see. I've got a little video if anyone wanted to see it. I can give you that. Also, our PA, when they are seen, they will look at all the different databases that are available before they see that young person. Make sure at panel we talk about any other extra needs that they have, and also we have our supervisions. So I have my supervisions with the PAs who are care leavers, care leaver PA, sorry, and we make sure that we talk about all the options available to them. My background is SEND as well, so I know exactly what should be happening with their EHCP. So they normally come to me or my other PA who worked in the SEND schools as well. And I think together we really can make a good way forward for them, be impartial, but make sure that they've got every offer available to them. And we work really close with the PFA team, which holds post-16 EHCP plans. So if there's any problem or they need any extra within that EHCP plan, we make sure that the careers plan as well is put within that, so that the annual review they can see what they've been doing with us, as well as what they're doing over in the SEND department as well. And we make sure databases are always updated, so they have to mirror, so everyone knows what that young person is doing at that time and what support they're getting.
Just to add to, just to add to what I was asking, I think from this report, I think it will be good for you to have like SEND, so we actually know how well we are doing with the SEND, care leavers and who are living care, so we know where they are at, so it will help us with our data as well, and how to support them better.
We can, I'll put some bits together.
Councillor Watson. I thought, okay, Councillor Cecil.
You mentioned earlier about construction workers. What are your links now with vocational training and putting some of our young people towards jobs that are urgently needed in construction?
Yeah, we've been reading. Sorry, we've been reading a lot. We've been reading a lot lately, obviously because of the change of government, which is fine. So as I said before, we were getting the money funding from the Prince's Trust, which was great, so we could then bring into the hub and have training, and then they went and did their tests, etc. So that was great. At the moment, there isn't. We have to listen to our young people at the end of the day, and if they don't want to be doing a course, a different provision, that's fine. So I need to make sure that there's an option, another option for them. So at the moment, we're working with the Skills Centre, which is based in Basildon. They have, you can go on that course. You have to be 18 plus though, and you can do your 3 week CSCS card. You can get some on the job training within them 3 weeks, and then there's a guaranteed interview at the end. So I feel our links are very good with businesses. I would just like to see, and I'm really glad that it came to Cabinet the other night with care leavers and work experience, because we do the same for our SEND young people. We've worked with different departments within the council, and now they complete some of their supported internships within Thurrock Council. So again, I think it's about mirroring that for our young people. But sorry, just going back to the question, there is people that deliver, but it's not necessarily what our young people want to go to for various reasons again. And it could be that they don't want to come into Grays. They might not want to go to main college to learn within the 3 weeks. So at the moment, it's better for them to go out to Basildon and get their CSCS card with a guaranteed interview at the end.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. What's a DSDS card?
Oh, CSCS card is what you need to go onto a construction site. It's like a safety card.
Right, so PFA?
Preparing for adulthood.
Preparing for adult. So, thank you. So, first of all, I think 58% across it is really good, and you do a phenomenal amount of work for the resources that you're on. The question I wanted to ask is, our schools know their children that's leaving care at year 11. Do they convey that to you confidentially, or is there a way that you can feed in the school and pick that information up in order that you can start preparing and introducing yourselves to those individuals? Because I think if you don't, I think that's a real big missed opportunity that maybe we could tie you into.
Sorry, there's 2 approaches to this, what we do. So I have the tracking team for the statutory duty, 16 to 18s. So we have a very small tracking team, but they do very well. It's one person. And they track all their year 11s and year 12s, making sure they go onto a positive destination. So we've picked them up through those surveys. We also pick them up for intended destinations, and we also have the virtual school, which I don't know if anyone wants to talk about the virtual school. I don't want to not do it justice because I know how good they are, but again, we work really closely with them. So we have the virtual school, and their figures are great because they have Leanne and Keely who are working really hard, and then they work with us. If there's anyone that's going to be neat, they make sure they've got Padlet as well, so they can see all the different offers that we've got for September for our care leavers. So yeah, I think it's that 2-prong. We've got them tracking at one side to say, look, these could be possible needs, and we will work with them. And then we've got the virtual school who work on the other side that we will know those group that are risk of needs. They're called our Ronnies. Sorry, it's another acronym again. Did you want to add anything, Luke? Sorry, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly to say some of the planning, particularly around the virtual school. Virtual school have a particular worker who works with young people in that transition phase, so from 16 to 18. We have PEP meetings, another acronym, personal education planning meetings, every term for looked after children. And in that period kind of approaching 18, the PEP meeting will kind of be focusing on that transition and going into adulthood and what are the plans post-18 for education, employment, etc. We also have a regular liaison with the 16 plus work in the virtual school, specifically with our lead for unaccompanied asylum seeking children, to look at what are the plans for our unaccompanied, in terms of their education, because they have slightly different needs in terms of English as a second language and those sorts of options. So virtual school is very impressive in Thurrock, and we have good results from them and good support.
We just heard tonight from Thurrock Young Voice, which I think are a really good idea and concept what they do. Also, you mentioned that you've got somebody that is leaving care, now going to Oxford, and I think, and in a nice way, I think we should really monopolise that, and just let them go and speak about how they got into Oxford, into a school if you can, into a classroom, not just, I don't mean go around and picking out all the children, but just if they're not worried and go, look, I'm a child in care and this is what I can do, this is what I've done, and this is what I'm achieved, and also into the voices. I think that could really work and can be part of that capture as well.
The students actually let us put a case study together so we can share that, but also they are an ambassador, so for care leavers as well. So if he comes back into here, which I'm sure he will, yes, that's something that we were going to look at, but he is actually an ambassador for the university, and going forward he will be again. So he's part of a lot of groups anyway, and yeah, definitely we were thinking that needs to be our next step for him to come back to Thurrock.
Thank you very much. So if we can move... Sorry.
Just a quick one, I won't 2 seconds. Just to say we have a number of young people that are going to university. So I think in terms of, I don't know if it's in our data today, but we have around 10% of our care leavers are at university, which we think we're really proud of them. And they're doing a variety of qualifications and degrees. Some quite difficult stuff. We've got somebody doing a PhD. We've got people doing aerodynamics, medicine, dentistry, so a range of things. A range of young people.
People like that, Janet, when you have children leaving care who don't think anything and going through the mental health and everything, and actually they can achieve so much and be shown that it's not a stigma because you're in care. You know, you can achieve just as much as anybody else, and I think we should really celebrate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, everyone. So if we could move to the recommendations, please.
Chair, further to my earlier point, when I was told that this committee does not have the power to make recommendations, may I refer yourself or the Democratic Service Officer to Chapter 5, Part 5, Objectives of the Corporate Parenting Committee, 2.11, to make recommendations to the relevant executive decision maker where responsibility for that particular function rests with the executive, which was exactly the recommendation that I asked you to make. It's clearly laid out in the Constitution. We can make a recommendation from this committee to Cabinet.
That's fine. So we'll change it from a note to a recommendation. That's fine. So, recommendation 1.1 is members to be aware of the target of 70% of care experienced young people to progress into employment, education or training following the end of Year 11 studies. Is that agreed? Okay. 1.2, members are invited to consider and offer challenge to the service about how it is proactive in supporting young people to access employment, education and training opportunities, including apprenticeship and work experience opportunities as a corporate parent. These opportunities will be brokered via the Inspire Hub. Agreed? Yep. Recommendation 1.3, members identify and pursue areas where the offer of apprenticeship and work experience opportunities could be improved within the council and wider community.
Councillor Spake, can you make a recommendation what you want it to say, please?
Specific recommendation.
I thought that was an extra recommendation, wasn't it?
No, that's on this one. That's on the
Right.
education one. You wanted to make recommendations.
I absolutely get it. It's specifically with reference to Duke of Edinburgh's.
Can I have your mic?
I thought it was a separate recommendation. I was coming to that. It was 1.4. Is yours?
I do apologise. I'm sorry.
I thought that's what we were. A new recommendation 1.4 which is that we request that it goes to Cabinet to reassess the funding to sort of Prince's Trust, Duke of Edinburgh, and other charitable trusts. So if we put that in as 1.4, and former partners, that will go in as recommendation 1.4. Okay, thank you. So as time is pressing on, we're going to, I propose that we extend the duration of the meeting by suspending standing orders. If we go to 10 p.m. Okay, is that agreed with everyone? Yep. Okay. Right. Lovely. Okay. So item 8 on the agenda is the joint housing protocol for care leavers. I've got Elise McQueen again down to present it, but I'm not sure if that's correct, is it?
Peter Doherty, I'll present it.
Okay, Peter Doherty, if you could present, please.
To change my position, so.
If you want, yeah, that might be sensible actually, yes, if that's okay.
So, thank you, Chair. As you said, it's a joint report from myself, Head of Housing Operations, Peter Doherty, and Luke Froment, who's the Service Manager with Children Looked After Care Children. The report sets out how the authority meets its statutory duties and responsibilities to our care leavers and how we support them into independent living. The joint protocol is updated annually and has been reviewed most recently in March 2024, and a copy of the protocol is attached to the papers, and hopefully you'll all have sight of that. I am going to just start off by commenting on the recommendations, which I presume will have further comment in light of comments that have been made earlier this evening. The recommendation in this one was for the committee to note the statutory duties of the local authority to support young people in obtaining suitable accommodation and how we plan to meet these duties. And these are set out in the documents at page 50, section 2, which highlights the Homelessness Code of Guidance and others, and also page 57, section 7.2, as highlighted by legal, in relation to the Children Leaving Care Act. The second recommendation was for the committee to have oversight of the joint protocols and to be involved in the ongoing review of delivery across children's and housing services. So the local authorities have a responsibility for developing and effectively delivering a joint protocol, setting out how the authority will deliver the local accommodation offered to care leavers and to prevent homelessness. So what I'd like to do is just highlight really some of the initiatives and some of the work that we've been doing this year and into the forthcoming year as well. So prior to being offered the Thurrock Council property, young people must demonstrate a readiness for tenancy. So there will be situations where some of our young people won't be ready to live independently at the age of 18. And there are a series of alternative provisions put in place for them, which are highlighted at 3.2. Luke may give reference to these in a few minutes' time, but I just want to highlight the Head Start housing in particular. So prior to April 2023, Head Start housing, the housing management function sat with Children's Services. That was transferred in April 2023 to housing, and that now comes under my service area and under the specific area of the Tenancy Management Service. We did this in order to ensure that there was better alignment around the property management and compliance functions and for the service to benefit from the regulatory and operational frameworks that we have within housing. And that seems to be certainly working well in terms of the transfer as well. As part of the transfer, one of the Head Start housing officers has moved across to tenancy management and one officer remains with the aftercare service. So we do, as I say, have this dual officer role with them linking in together. So just to confirm the role of the Head Start housing officer, their role is focused on housing and tenancy management within the service, but as I've referenced previously, the safety, compliance and property safety are are key aspects of that role. But in addition, they picked up, or he has picked up, should I say, roles around managing the lettings and move-on process, the rent arrears aspect, and also ensuring that the terms of the licence are followed, which is the standard work which is undertaken by the tenancy team. So the support around those services is obviously quite strong, and that's another reason for the officer and now sitting within the tenancy management service. So the role of the aftercare service has recently been refocused, and again Luke might want to give reference to that at the end of my presentation. So just in relation to a couple of other things that I just want to reference back. At 3.10, one of the areas that we're looking at is the move-on or the move-through rates. I think everybody agrees that this is one of the things that we really do need to do some more work on, and that the levels are not really at the kind of required levels that we would want them to be at. So we've started to embed a new process for onboarding and also ongoing reviews, with key milestones at both the onboarding and sign-up meeting stage. So these really are picking up in areas where we want the young person to be undertaking key actions. So one of the things that we have identified is that a number, for example, weren't registering on the housing register and others weren't actively bidding. So these now are going to become standard parts of their action plan or key plan moving forward. The exception to this is our unaccompanied asylum seekers who don't currently have immigration status, and their lack of status means they do not have recourse to public funds and the right to social housing or private rental accommodation. So this presents a risk to the council, as we know, and that remains so until their immigration status is resolved. The third thing I'd just like to highlight would be in relation to the housing stock and the growing capacity. And if you look at page 53, you'll see that there are currently 58 bed spaces that are managed within Head Start housing. And that's a split of both private sector and Thurrock Council housing stock. I say that, and the figures are set out there for you. One of the key things that I'd pick up, and again, the reference made to this earlier this afternoon, one of the key strategic priorities for us was to bring all the bed spaces back into the borough, and we managed to achieve this in the quarter of 23-24. But the aspect around accommodation is a principal challenge for us. Current budgets won't allow us to go for any further leasing of private property or for any HMOs. So the strategic aim is to grow the available stock for Head Start housing within the council housing stock, in order to try and make sure that this is a deliverable action for the future. We've also ensured that that's part of the housing strategy, so that's included within the housing strategy. The other big thing around the stock, obviously, is our pressures on our stock at the present moment in time, and many of you will be versed with that. We've got major issues in terms of the increasing number of homelessness presentations, and we've also got the major decants taking place at Blackshots and Teviots. So just to add a little bit more information there for those of you who may not be very aware of that, but the increase in homelessness presentations has been increasing year on year for the last 3 or 4 years, and is likely to continue as well, to the extent that there are additional budgetary pressures this year in terms of the presentations being made. In terms of the decants and Blackshots and Teviots, we're looking at approximately 200 units. The Blackshot units would be effectively 168, needs to be delivered by March 2025, Teviots a short period thereafter. Again, just to update you where we are with that, we're about halfway there. So we've got to find the additional units for the rest of this year. So that's really, let's say, some key issues in terms of the pressures around that, and that obviously will have a knock-on impact as well in terms of the units that we're finding as well. But we are committed to doing that. Another area that we're looking to improve on is in relation to the income levels and our income management. It was good to note that in 23-24, although our target or annual budget income line target was £35,000, we managed to bring in £146,000. Moving forward, we'll be moving all the rent accounts onto the housing management system of Northgate, which should allow us greater oversight in all our accounts, and certainly will give us the opportunity to know when the rent liabilities from working residents, which is one of the things which has been a bit of a challenge to date. The final two things I'd like to just reference are in relation to the rehousing process and the tenancy sustainment. So in recent years, one of the difficulties which has been experienced by young people has been the ability to effectively make an application for housing prior to their 18th birthday. And this is a bit of an anomaly. So what we've agreed is that applications can be taken and preparations made for assessments prior to that birthday, so that we can move them, when they're ready to go on their 18th birthday, instead of waiting for a period that falls thereafter. In terms of rates of rehousing, just so you're aware of that, at 313, 23-24 financial year, there were 40 care leavers active on the housing register, and in that year 27 individuals were rehoused. At the end of June in this financial year, there continues to be 40 individuals active on the register, and 6 had received offers. So effectively what we're looking at over that whole 15-month period is approximately 2 per month. And I think we've done very, very well in terms of doing that over that period. However, bearing in mind what I've just said about the pressures on our housing, in terms of our housing stock, the rates of offer, I think, are going to be on. We're going to find it very difficult to keep up with the demand, and so we need to give consideration to a kind of broader offer for individuals, and that's something that we are committed to look at this year. Again, that's tied in with the housing strategy. And then the final point, really, I just want to give reference to is around tenancy sustainment. So approximately 2 years ago, we set up a pre-eviction panel. So the objective of the panel really was to look at cases where we'd received a possession order, and prior to actually instructing the bailiffs, to try and actually work with those individuals and avoid them being evicted. The care leavers have been part of that process as well, but one of the things that we recognised, as with all other tenants that we're dealing with, is that we really did need to start to have an early alert. So what we've done is we've set up a ongoing and a regular meeting between children's services colleagues and housing to review cases, basically where they're in rent arrears, where there's any ASB or any tenancy management issues, so that we can obviously nip them in the bud or provide better support at an early stage. So they're the kind of key initiatives that we are driving through this year. Luke, I don't know if you've anything more to add?
So yeah, just a couple of quick things, kind of picking up from what Pete said and focusing on the joint working really. One of the things 3.2 and 3.3 of the report kind of talks about readiness for tenancy of care leavers. So some of the work that we've been doing is within the aftercare team, kind of recognising that to get the kind of best offer consistently for all of our young people as they kind of approach 18, to be really clear about what the expectations are of what does it look like to be independent. So we've kind of introduced a tool for our PAs and carers to kind of work with our young people from 16 to 18 to kind of go through the things which are really, some of them really practical skills. Can you change a plug? To other things like, do you know how to open a bank account? Do you know how to access ID information and things like that? So what we've seen previously is pockets of that work being really good, but being more inconsistent than we'd like. So it's about trying to get a consistent approach in terms of that. And kind of alongside that, there's some work along with housing colleagues around specific training for care leavers to be ready to have a tenancy. So we have a quarterly training session where the training is provided by housing colleagues, but a lot of support from aftercare and the PAs to kind of engage with young people, to get them to that training, to help them to understand the value of that training, etc. To kind of go through not only you know, the housing system and how you kind of log on and how you bid for social housing and how you achieve social housing, also looking more at what do you, and then what happens then, and you know, what do you need to do to kind of maintain it, and what support is there on offer from the aftercare service and from housing colleagues, etc. So that's one area where we've really kind of strengthened the practice over the last year, I would say. And the other thing, in terms of again, picking up some of the pressures that Pete was kind of talking about and thinking about our forward planning, is there's some work kind of going on between children's services, commissioning and housing colleagues about looking at what is the broader offer for care leavers, and what other types of long-term tenancy is available to care leavers, and what support do we need to put in as a corporate parent to kind of help them to achieve that. So one pathway is that pathway into social housing, but there might be other kind of long-term tenancies or housing situations that are available to care leavers. And what are we doing in a coordinated way to make that achievable? So one of the things that we know is care leavers often are gate kept from private accommodation because there isn't a guarantor, and we know that we're not able to act as a guarantor for care leavers legally, but we also know that our housing colleagues have certain providers that they work with who will provide properties without guarantors. So how can we kind of strengthen those relationships and strengthen those pathways? So yeah, that's it for me. Just a couple of bits of the joint working that's going on between children's and housing.
Thank you both very much for that. We will have some brief questions, but we are quite time restricted now. So what I would say to members, if they've got anything in depth, is to follow up via email or with the officers. But if anyone's got anything quick to ask now, then we can proceed. If you can try and keep it short, Councillor Spate, that's fine. And then Sisterson, sorry, afterwards. Go to Councillor Spate was first, and then I'll go to you afterwards, Councillor Sisterson. Thank you. You sure? Okay, Councillor.
It was only just really quick, just to say how it ties in with the young voices earlier, how they felt that what was lacking was the leaving care, the skills they needed to be fully independent and that sort of thing, and how it's obviously tying in with the work you're doing now. So hopefully that will go some way to meeting the needs that they're identifying themselves. That was all.
Yeah, one of the things I just want to add as well, we are, and this has just really happened since we drafted the report, we are looking at working with our contractors in terms of putting the toolbox together, because that's one of the key things I think that you've identified, and certainly an issue I've come across in my working experience, that 18-year-old, in fact, my daughter's 18, she was to go into a house now, empty house, how would she look at it? She wouldn't have a clue. So we're kind of looking at that and steps to try and actually upskill them in terms of DIY and the likes.
Thank you. Councillor Spate.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Luke. That was really encouraging, what you said there. I mean, and I actually would have no problem in supporting a recommendation, noting what you've said. I think it's really, really good. What I would say again is that we want to be different as a council. We want to change the way we do things. This is why I'm so keen on recommendations and things, and also try and break down silo working. It was really, Luke was just talking about how you are already, as housing and kids, for want of a better phrase, working together, and that's really, really, really encouraging. Aside from housing, I think the other thing that you could bring into this, or we could do on your behalf, is to talk to planning. Or ask that Cabinet look at possibilities within planning and Section 106 agreements and various things. We've heard this week about how there are going to be new grey areas in terms of planning. Things are definitely going to change. And I certainly see an opportunity there within the planning structure to meet some of your need if we specify exactly what your need would be as part of a 106 on a development. So if you could come up with that, and share it with planning, and this committee could support it, or other committees could support it, I think that would be really, really useful because we need to give direction to planning to do the things that Thurrock wants, rather than other developers from outside coming in and telling us what we want. We know what we want for our young people. So I would ask you to do that and just build on the good work that you've already done, because clearly there is a huge amount of interdepartmental work, which is exactly what we need to turn this council around. Well done.
Thank you again. So if we could move to the recommendations, please. We've got 1.1 for the committee to note the statutory duties of the local authority to support young people in obtaining suitable accommodation and how we plan to meet these duties. Agreed? Agreed. For the 1.2, for the committee to have oversight of the joint protocols and to be involved in the ongoing review of delivery across children's services and housing services. Thank you. So we'll move to item 9 on the agenda, which is care experience as a locally protected characteristic. I've got Trevor Willis, if that's correct, to present the report, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be as brief as I can. So on the 24th of July, Thurrock Council supported a motion to ensure the impact upon care experiencing young people and look at how this affects the opportunities afforded to them and how this is considered as a locally protected characteristic. Whilst care experience is not listed as a protected characteristic within the Equality Act 2010, and a clear definition is not universally agreed in the context, the definition of care experience refers to young people who've been looked after at some point in their childhood and are entitled to receive services under the Children Act 1989, Leaving Care Act 2000, and the Children's Social Work Act 2017. As of today, there are 282 children and young people who are cared for by Thurrock, which equates to 63 children per 10,000. Care experienced young people both in Thurrock and nationally face significant barriers and challenges that impact them throughout their lives, facing problems in areas such as housing, health, education, relationships, employment and the criminal justice system. And there are a number of statistics contained within the report provided for the committee. Thurrock Children's Services work tirelessly in building meaningful relationships with children and young people in our care, and there has been considerable development in the care provided by the aftercare services over the past 2 years, with the provision of additional personal advisors, the creation of additional team manager posts, which will support the improvement of the service. And there are plans to realign the service to create more bespoke teams to meet specific needs, such as the needs of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children through to adulthood. The local offer to care leavers is extensive and includes support from housing, employment and financial advisors, and a range of financial supports outlined in Section 3 of the report. In Thurrock, it's firmly believed that young people in the care of the local authority deserve the best possible opportunity to succeed in reaching their ambitions and reaching their goals. And we're keen to extend locally our role as corporate parent to provide young people with care experience at every opportunity and give them every opportunity to access services and resources. It's imperative that this is not simply a paper exercise, and to that extent, changes will need to be made to our equalities and impact statement, which have already begun, as well as the HR practices, and further exploration will need to be given to how commissioned services, as well as partner agencies, local organisations and businesses will reflect the commitment of Thurrock Council in their practices.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for Trevor today?
Poor old lad sat there all evening. All I've got to say is I think it's absolutely outstanding what we saw and heard the other night at full council. And I would just like to make I think everything that Trevor's just spoken, everybody would support it. And I would, and again, because I want to see us being proactive rather than sitting here like nodding dods, I would like to make an amendment to 1.1 and just to change something. So where it says to note, I would like to say this committee applauds, welcomes and supports the council motion of the 24th of July. And where it says understand, we put an S on it and make it a past participle, so we've considered it and we understand it. I do think that slight grammatical changes, but also an emphasis change. I think it's brilliant work that's been done.
I'm happy for my grammar to be corrected. I'm a social worker by trade, so I will bow to your wisdom, that's fine.
Councillor Watson. Thank you for this. 100% support this, without a doubt. Whatever Councillor Spate has just said with the grammatic errors and whatever else that you want to put in it, please do so. Really looking forward to this in motion. Absolutely. So welcome back. Like what's going on, a report later on.
Yeah, we'd be really happy to come back and report what we do. I think it's really important listening to attending full council last week and listening to the comments made that this is not a paper exercise, and that we look at how we can make this meaningful for our young people, not only in terms of what we do internally within the council, but also looking at how we can involve partner agencies, housing, health agencies, how we can. I really would like to look at how we can get businesses like Amazon and Meeks on board as well, so we can make it a real meaningful thing. So we'd be more than happy to come back.
Thank you very much again. It's excellent. Thank you. So the recommendation has been slightly amended, I think, to just become a bit more enthusiastic, I think was the general idea. So I can't remember his wording, but I know he wanted to applaud and to do something.
Applaud, welcome and support.
To applaud, welcome and support the council motion on 24th July 2024, and understands the benefits of granting protected status to care experienced young people. Okay. Thank you. Lovely. So item 10 on the agenda is...
I just want to say one thing. If you need any help and support or on the business side of staff or anything like that, welcome to come and speak to me as a portfolio holder for New Growth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So item 10 on the agenda is transitions to adult services for care leavers and children in care. Is that Elise and Queen? No? Sorry, who is we do?
It's I have Sarah Sunday.
Okay.
Actually, Trudy was on Thursday's cover.
So who's covering,
Oh,
sorry?
Trudy's from adult services.
Okay, thank you, Trudy. Is it? Yes, thank you. If you could present the report, please.
No problem, thank you. So I'm presenting the report for my colleague Ayobosa, who's not here. So the report is around the joint working between preparing for adulthood and aftercare. And my colleagues are here. If there's anything I miss out, they'll be able to support me on that. So the Preparing for Adulthood team, which is again known as the PFA team, it's a dedicated team in adult social care with skilled social workers and support planners, which is primarily critical for young people with special education needs, disability SEND, which includes looked after children so that they are supported to have a smooth and seamless transition from children to adult services where this is appropriate. The team works with professionals and carers involved with young people to understand what their ongoing care needs and supports are, which might be when they turn 18. The team is established as follows. The team is quite a very small team, so they've got a team manager, a senior practitioner, 3 social workers, 2 support planners and 1 share admin. It's also noted that at the moment there is a vacancy within the team which they're trying to recruit into. In terms of current caseload within the team, it ranges between about 200 young people who are within a team, who are supported across the various disciplines within a team. This obviously depends on your background. Children in care and and care leavers are also part of the service user group, and referrals are made in line with the transition processes. Young people can dip in and out in terms of the services if they prefer to. However, the team provide a long-term case management across these areas, and the case management team, they hold on from the cases till the children come into adult services until they're about 18, so they stay within the adult team until they're 18. and then that case then get transferred into our then other team, which is the community-led support team within adult social care. In terms of assessment and where that sits within the transition processes, that is in line with the Care Act, and the PFA team, they work, again, like I said, within the Care Act guidance to ensure that young people's well-being is a centre and a focus of all that they do. Again, in terms of the duties under the Care Act, the local authorities conduct transition assessment for children, children's carers, young carers, where there is likely to need a care and support when the young person turns 18, and the transition assessment will be also of a significant benefit. Thurrock Council gives information and advice to young people and families who want to, and not just the young people who have care and support needs paid for by the local authority. There are young people that require support with signposting, so not necessarily all the referrals that come into the team end up with a care package or some sort. It may be signposting to other organisations, which is some of the organisations that we've heard here, which could be either voluntary or a government agency. Where necessary, the team ensure that young people are safeguarded from any abuse, implementing clear risk plans to manage and identify ways to manage risk. Practitioners, again, is part of the ongoing work. Practitioners attend EAC education, health, care plans meeting in schools from year 9, which is quite critical, which is really important because it's part of the journey, it's part of the process. Starting to work with people quite at an early age means that we have a holistic approach and started to understand their journey as they go through education and trying to also navigate into coming to adult services. The partner agencies and families contribute to the planning of the young person's care and support plan, provides the relevant information about services, because it's quite important. So they may not necessarily at that time be 18 ready to come to adulthood, but they start having those, they start to understand that when we turn 18, part of the transition, this is what the expectation is. So by starting to go into schools and having those conversations, parents become more aware in terms of what, you know, the future outcomes could be for those young people. Year 11 is quite critical in that sense, because the young people may leave school at that end of the academic year. The team work very closely, which is what some of the services that we've heard with the young people family and schools and children's services. Children looked after and aftercare service to start information gathering about adult services and some of the support that they can receive once they turn 18. And for young people transitioning that are looked after, work is jointly carried out with children looked after and aftercare teams. This is updated in a transition policy for children looked after and leavers, care leavers, which include a whole council approach. And again, very much set on the standard about looking at joint working and putting the child or the young person in the centre of the planning. This helped to clarify what is expected of each services because, again, coming from children and coming to adult, there may be different expectations. So it's about being quite clear what each service will be able to offer. There is a graph there that looks at in terms of once they're within adult services, once the adult assessment is being completed, some of the services that adults are able to offer. So, for example, we've got long-term direct payment, which is we give them money in terms of when the assessment is done, in terms of their outcome, what they can use those money for, whether it's something that it could be travel training, or it could be something that the young person or the young adults want to achieve as part of their outcome. Long-term home care package, it could be that they may just need support with their daily living activities. Long-term community, long-term support, that could again be what the young person or the young adult wish to. Long-term supported living, where obviously it may be part of their outcomes in terms of they want to achieve something, they want to live in a community, but they're actually not quite ready to. So those support living environment support them in terms of independent skills for them to live independently. And for some young people, it could be that in terms of their outcome, long-term residential may be the more appropriate place for them to be. For all young children age 16, as part of the pathway planning and referral to adult services, and when this is considered, again, there's transition and practice panel where the cases are discussed just to make sure that they meet the criteria in terms of coming to adults. And one of the things in terms of working jointly with looked after children and aftercare is starting to now looking at starting assessments more earlier, around 16. This is something that very much we're working very jointly with our children colleagues just to make sure we start the assessment quite early on, so that by the time that they're 17, we've got a draft assessment in place, and then by the time that we're 18, because that's something that we've worked together, because we've noted that sometimes by the time that the referral come to adult services, it might be a bit too late. They're approaching 18, and for the young person, consistency is very, very important. So I think we've noted that we need to start that process very early. Again, just going back to the Care Act, just the emphasis on the Care Act in terms of our duties under the Care Act in terms of the transition processes. And one of the things also to know is around sort of diversity and equality. Once we do know this, it's about making sure that we are actually capturing and making sure that these are areas that we need to consider as part of the young person's outcome, because it's a part of their identity. I don't know whether there's anything that I've missed that anyone want to add to that. Anything? No? If not, question. Sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. And thank you for being so passionate as well about your team. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, you've got 2 vacancies. When are they going to be in post? Because it's impacting in your team right now.
So we are still in the recruitment process. So we've got a senior practitioner, which has been out for quite a while now. But again, it's about getting the right people. So the job actually has been out for a number of years, and we've tried continuously. We're just not getting anyone in a post. We have, and that's something some of the times we find within our services, that we just don't fulfill those vacancies, but it's been out for a while. The other one was a support planner post, and we have actually recruited somebody that we're waiting for a start date.
Thank you. Well, I just really hope you get them in quickly to carry on doing this. So in terms of this transition, how many caseloads have you currently got, or you're projecting to get?
I'm not 100% sure about that one. At the moment, in terms of from the data here, we've got about 200 cases within a team. But I think we've noted that we're getting more and more referral, especially the fact that now we're looking to say that we're taking the cases early, around 16. I haven't got the right figures, I haven't got exact figures, but we are seeing an increase, and some of the increases also around complexity of the cases. We're getting more and more complex cases, but I can say, although I haven't got the data, but we are getting more and more referrals than we used to, for a variety of reasons, because, you know, the needs of children becoming more complex one way or the other.
So my question back to you is your team capable of doing the amount of cases that you've currently got and the projected ones that are coming through, which you don't know the date for yet?
No, it's difficult. I mean, the team are very passionate, and I think, you know, although it's a very small team, but they go above and beyond what they have, and I think that's why it's recognised that they need more staff. That's what is something just through various reviews, like peer reviews that had sort of recently taken place. It was identified that the team was understaffed, and also to conversate for the fact that we're now looking at taking referrals at much earlier than we used to. We used to look about 16, but now about 17, but now we've agreed to look at 16. We recognise that those additional resources will be really useful. So, I mean, the team do above and beyond what they do. And I think it's just the nature of the social work roles. Everyone just do the best that they can. And whilst we like to have more resources, it's just always difficult to recruit to.
Thank you. Councillor Scope.
Yeah, just for an insight, really. There's been it seems to me, a loss of post-16 opportunity in Thurrock for education. Obviously, over in Stamford, for example, the Stamford sixth form closed down. Now, I don't know what the interaction there was with kids with learning difficulties or even kids who are in care. But I remember about 18 months before that, there was a college in Basildon called Life Skills, which suddenly closed down, and that had a really significant impact. It actually came back. I mean, it just went bust. Another college eventually came in and took over part of its duties, but the impact on local young people of that one college in the middle of Basildon shutting down was there. I'm sure Palmer's is not exactly looking to extend its over 16 plus provision. They're looking to retract. I don't know what the situation is with any other sixth form providers, but is it problematic finding places in Thurrock for children that you deal with, or young people, I shouldn't call them children, young people that you deal with that want to stay in education? How difficult is it?
That's very difficult. So we've got the post-18 treetop, which we work very closely with. And I think sometimes, especially within adult, we try and be as creative as possible. So we might sort of look at other ways of making sure that they still achieve those educational goals, or we just have to look outside organisations. So it may be out of borough school or residential school or some sort.
Is cuts in transport a problem then? Because transport funded?
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. I know we're pressing, Chair. There have been, and to my absolute chagrin and shame, I can't remember the name of it. I visited a school that's doing, it's not a school, a centre that's doing provision for post-16 down in Grays on the Globe Industrial Estate, Richard and his team, and they're looking after young people and teaching them some skills. So again, I sort of go back to the silo element, or not silo, is that, again, if we can try and spread the need, that, again, when we talk about planning and things like that, look at education provision as well for specialist need, which is what this age sector is. I mean, it's just, I appreciate how difficult your job is to find places for these young people. But if again, let's spread it across the whole spectrum of the council to see if we can help you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just looking at your structure. We have one team manager, one senior practitioner, 3 social workers, 2 support planners, and 1 shared admin. And you have around 200 young people, and young people plus, and I still have more referrals coming in. I'm just wondering how your team cope with the demands of completing the assessments and taking it to panel, things like that, because you have to do like support planning and the rest of it. So I'm just thinking whether you're finding it difficult to recruit people because of the high case loads. Because when you have high case loads, it can have an impact on how social workers, meet the time scales for their assessments and putting up support plan together. So I'm just suggesting, I don't know if the council, it depends on the council how they want to, put resources through to get more social workers and maybe social work assistants as well to help to do the assessments and then do the support planning so that can kind of clear the backlogs, because that will kind of delay putting services together for those young people or caregivers on those, if you're getting more referrals every time as they get to post-16 and before 16 years, because you have to start doing the planning before transitioning to adult services. So it might be worth, looking into employing more workers, but that has to do with council, putting in some resources to make sure we get more workers to clear the backlog, because that can have an effect on services to our young people and meeting their needs within their time frame and within the time scale as well.
Thank you. Just to note, the team has got a really good retention because, again, I think people are very passionate about what they do. I think it's one of the teams within adults that have the same workers in for many years, and in recognising the fact that the demands of the referral we've, whilst we're waiting to recruit permanent staff, we've actually recruited some agency staff just to help in the sort of in terms of the backlog of the reviews and some of the work that are behind until we get permanent people in place.
For the report. Could we move to the recommendation, please? That members of the committee review the work of the Children Looked After Service in preparing for ad hoc team in meeting the Council's role as a corporate parent in relation to the work undertaken with children in care and care leavers to transition to adult services where it is appropriate to do so. Great. Agreed. Thank you. We'll move on to item 11. We have now got less than 10 minutes, so I think what we'll need to do is just have the report, and then any questions will probably have to be followed up on an individual basis, if that's okay. But
I'm so sorry.
I'm very sorry. I know it's terrible, but so if you're okay to give us a brief summary of the report, and then members may well contact you afterwards, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So, brief summary. Obviously, this report is in relation to the local offer for care leavers. Each local authority has a duty to publish a local offer so that care leavers are clear about what support they're entitled to and what will be offered to them by the local authority. Our local offer was most recently updated and relaunched during Care Leavers Week 2023, so in October 2023. With the, I mean, you met some of the young voices from the Care Leavers Forum earlier on in the meeting. One of the things that we did is do some consultation with our young people prior to the launch, but what we want to do, what we will do, is kind of feed the local offer back into that forum for some ongoing kind of consultation and development with our young people. So some of the key areas that we updated in the last update was around marking cultural celebrations, birthdays, Christmas, Eid, providing some consultation fees for our young people who do some of that consultation work and service development work with us, more consistent support for around driving lessons and provisional licences, and a number of other areas. We had a consultation kind of session of about 7%, about 19, 20 of our young people prior to the relaunch. The general feedback in terms of the intended changes was quite positive. The young people were able to kind of give us an idea of the areas that they felt were most important to them. Birthdays and driving licence support came quite high up on that agenda. But they were also able to kind of give us some comments about what they thought was missing from the proposals at that stage, and some of that feedback has been incorporated into the updated offer. So particularly around marking of Eid and celebrating Eid alongside Christmas, stuff around driving licences, support that we provide to care leavers after the age of 25 when our statutory responsibilities finish, and sharing the local offer as widely as possible. This report itself was quite brief. Obviously, you had links to the local offer itself in the report, so hopefully people have had a chance to read that local offer. So, you've got your hard copy. I don't know if other people received a hard copy. Hopefully you did, but if not, we can send those to you following the meeting. So that's all I want to say, really. If there's questions about the report or the local offer itself, then I'm happy to take a few questions.
Thank you very much for the excellent report, and it's so nice to see that all the effort's been made. I have been told that we've got a few minutes for brief questions or comments, so if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the good things, I've heard a few councillors moaning about the benefit, the fact that we've been asked to do some training, and we've attended quite a lot of events in the last few weeks. We actually spent a great deal of time, not a great deal of time, a significant part of our training meeting the other night looking at this document, and it just shows you the value of that foresight, because we now got the end of this meeting, but most of us who were there were really well informed. It's an excellent piece of work, and keep up the good work. And it was, again, take that, we're here to learn, aren't we? All the time.
I think everyone's in agreement. Thank you very much. Are there some Recommendations? Yes, so there's 2 recommendations. Got 1.1 for the committee to note the statutory duties of the local authority to consult on and publish a local offer for its care leavers.
Agreed.
1.2 for the committee to have oversight of the local offer and be involved in the ongoing review of delivery across children's services and clubs.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you again. Item 12 is the work programme. I don't know what if anyone has any comments or ideas. Or we can follow up on them. Okay, so I've been informed that Councillor Hurrell is liaising regarding the work programme, but if anyone has anything they would like to add to go forward as well in the meantime. Okay, it seems that everyone's okay, Janet.
So I've got a draft work programme that I'll share with Councillor Hurrell. We'll meet when he gets back from leave. What we've tried to do is some of the issues that have been discussed today, and we'll be sitting in the performance report, we would want to bring back. So one of the things is about recruitment and retention of foster carers. It'll be around some of the things around things like staying put, so what that means for care leavers. Looking at some of the areas, so initial health assessments, we would ask for a report to come back around initial health assessments from our health colleagues, which will contribute to something from our CAMS service. We usually do a focus on education, but there'll be areas that we haven't thought about that you think, I really want to know about that. So if there's anything people want to suggest, then kind of, if you want to send them to direct to you, and then we can include them. But there's a whole range of things that we have, things like the independent reviewing officer. So Trevor, who presented the report on protected characteristics, he does he manages the independent reviewing officer's service. Just there's a whole range of things, and we're trying to kind of keep it to sort of topics so that it's much easier for committee members to feel that the theme is running through and there's a thread.
Thank you very much. So I think that concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed at 21:56. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I've stayed behind.